Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We're gonna light it up now. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We're gonna light it up now.
Hey guys, welcome back in for another round if you were here earlier today. But welcome to tonight's live. How's everybody doing? Welcome in, welcome in. I'm stuck to everything there. Okay, there we go. So how's everybody doing? How's the end of everyone's weekend coming? Well, the end, it's coming close, you know, the ending of the weekend. It's been rainy here all day. It's been crappy. It's been crappy weather today. I don't know what's going on with the summer in Ohio, but I feel like I've been robbed. I feel like I've been robbed out of the summer. So the summer better go in through like September, October, maybe November at this point. So welcome in, Cyber Warrior, Crime Kitty. Welcome in. Hey, Ladybug. Hey, baby girl. Hey, baby girl. Couldn't even get that out of my mouth. Hey, Dawn. Hey, Cuff You. There was like, I was like trying to look for whenever I was before the live, like before I was starting to get ready for this live, I was looking at the live tab and I'm like, nobody's live. Like, I don't know. I haven't really been into a lot of lives this weekend, which has been good because I shortened my subscriber list down a lot. But that's why I asked you guys who you watch. So I need to go through that list and start subscribing to people. So I have more of a, a variety because I always have to check people by their name. I'd always forget to follow some people. It's Dawn's birthday. Well, happy birthday. It is your birthday. Hey, happy birthday, Dawn. Wait a second. That's how you told us that. Happy birthday. I hope you had a great day today. We had Aries' birthday yesterday. Someone else's birthday was the day before. Everybody's birthday. Hey, Mary. Hey, Villanova. Way too kind to the cops. Yeah. Hey, Tom. Hey, Dion. We're almost done with the book. I can't believe it. Hey, Mr. Rosebud. Hey, Triple L. We're getting there, you know? Make it on time. She's like, I know. I could be sitting here and then something will come up. I swear. I'm always sitting here. I'm always here. It's usually that, like, you know, I have to get the dogs. That's usually what it is. That's what it was, actually. The dogs. I'm blaming it on them because it was. It was funny. One was on the bed, and I was like, "Oh, you're gonna stay over here?" And I walked back over this way, and I was like, "She's gonna jump off that bed and come over here." As soon as I sat down, that's what she did. Hey, Jog. I don't know if I said hey to you. Hey, Legal Lacey. We got Dion in here. We got everybody. Hey, Kim. Welcome on in. I feel like I haven't seen you in a little while, Creme Kitty. Like maybe it just was busy this weekend or something in the chat, but I feel like, oh, that's what it is. I've been reading. Did someone off themselves? Who was found dead? I know that Wade Wilson overdosed. Oh. Like Travis Decker? I haven't seen anything about him. Like they had a sighting, but it wasn't him. Not Travis Decker. Let us know. Let us know. Now we're all ready. I'm like, no, I'm not. I was like, I know that, you know. I don't see it anywhere. Where are you seeing it? Yeah, I don't see anything about Travis Decker. It's on the TV. Well, I mean, you can Google it. It will come up in Google. It'll be on Google before Grizzly. It'll get to Grizzly. She's in another country. I'm assuming that anyway. Let's go to X, I guess. Nothing. Okay, I'm gonna type his name in, and then if I don't see anything, I'm gonna move on. But it should be on there. Like, that's July 16th. It might just be hitting. Well, I mean, no, you're over here. That wouldn't be local. The latest. Yeah, no. Yeah, I don't see anything. So yeah, let us know. Hey, Pretty K. Hey, Patricia. Hey, Maga Mama. Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking it up. I don't see it. I was on X. Usually it hits X before, you know what I mean? Like it hits there quick. No. No. No, I don't see anything. Nothing at all. 2 days ago. Hey, mi amore. Yeah, I don't. Well, that was 9 minutes we just wasted on looking for Travis Decker. We just tried to look for Travis Decker like the police were. We came up empty. That's crazy. I don't see it. Yeah, I mean, if you could tell me the local station or whatever, Ladybug, but there's nothing on YouTube. 4 days ago, 2 days ago, 6 days ago, but nothing as of today. Yeah, I was gonna say, man, I'm always on Twitter and stuff. Like, I always try to stay on top of things. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I always try to stay on top of the stuff. But, you know, sometimes things get by me. They get by me quick too. Let me see. Was there anything else to show you up here? I don't think so. Oh, okay. So I was going to go over the first few parts that we've so we are on the last part of our book. And this is, a long part, but I think we can get through all of it tonight. I think we can. So it's part 5. I'm sorry, part 6. The wrong one. It's called Warpath. And if you're, let me see if I can find it really quick, and I'll tell you. If you're reading along in the book, where you can find it, which you probably could find it faster than me at this point. It'll be chapter 115. So yeah, I'm like, look at us. So it'll be chapters like 115 through like 127 or something like that. But yeah, so I think we're gonna finish this tonight. I think we can do it. We've learned a lot of new things. I think we have anyway, that's come out of the book. Like Steve Gonzalez came out and said probably 4 nights ago at this point, maybe 3, that Kaylee had marks around her mouth. So it's probably about 3 nights ago, or maybe even 2. Time flies, around here. But the marks on her mouth, it was described in the book. Like we read it the next day, and I was like, oh wow, that's in the book. So I'm glad that we read this book. I'm glad that we're getting details that are actually true, and they're not just like, from a source that we can't tell you who it is because we're not going to tell you, one of those, So, hey, Kathy. And I thought I saw someone else come in, but welcome in, everybody. So, hey, Tony. Right? Considering there was a gag order. That's very true. And this would have all came out before trial, Oh, it wouldn't have looked good, but you know what I mean? But I mean, he ended up pleading guilty anyway, so that's neither here or there, I guess. But he does get sentenced in 3 days. After we go to bed tonight, it'll be 2 days. And I'm ready for it. I'm ready to hear the families. Some of them are going to do victim impact statements, and I'm ready to hear what they have to say to the person that they've been wanting to talk to for 2+ years. They've been waiting a long time. Long time. So actually, I'll put up overlays if I can find some, and then I'll read what each chapter is. So the first chapter is going to deal with obviously the students, the victims. This section starts off by introducing the 4 victims. It paints, portrait of their lives in Moscow, Idaho. On November 13th, 2022, it details their personalities, relationships, daily routines. It shows them on social media, things of that nature. Then we go into the second. I'm sorry, actually in the first, I want to bring this up in the first part. They do introduce a lot of their friends, like a lot of the University of Idaho's victims, a lot of their friends are introduced. So then we go into the inception. This part, it delves into the background of Brian Kohlberger, who he was before, coming to Pullman from Moscow, what his parents kind of did, what their background was, his ideology, references to, mass murderer Elliot Rodger. They do suggest that maybe he had I'm trying to think of the word, a obsession of sorts with Elliot Rodger. He wanted to kind of like be like him or an equal to him. And I'm just kind of like paraphrasing these. So part 3 is the first 6 weeks of the investigation, and it goes through it chronicles the immediate aftermath of the murders and the early stages of the investigation. It describes, the shock, the fear, everything that gripped the small town of Moscow. And it goes through as they were trying to find a suspect, in those initial 6 weeks. So then the next one is part 4, On the Run. This part focuses on the manhunt for Brian Kohlberger and how, the phone data pings put him at the house, on so many occasions, and how they used genetic genealogy to, in order to capture him. So then the next part, part 5 is what we read earlier today. I couldn't even say it. And that section examines the fallout from the murders, focusing on how the tragedy affected Moscow and Pullman communities, as well as the victims' families. It talks a lot about the Chapins in this part, of the book. It talks about them and their family and how they kind of like what they were going through in the days after the death of their son. So, and of his girlfriend. So now we're on part 6. So those were just a little bit of a, cliff notes. And then I've got, I think it's like a whole thing to show you guys. Oh yeah. It'll show you the, like in chronological order, all the new stuff. And we'll go over that on our next live. So we will read the book. Let me get this presented up here. Did you hear about Dog the Bounty Hunter's like stepson killed his other son or something? I don't know. I just heard about it before I came on here and I was like, what? Like shot him on accident? You never know what's going to happen. Yeah. Yeah, it was like, let me see if I can pull it up on my phone. Something about Dog the Bounty Hunter and let's see if I Dog. Oh, I'm on Twitter. It probably won't come up as fast if I just like Googled it, but like I don't know where my Safari is. Hey Mariska. I know Tom's being funny, isn't he? He almost got me that time. You got me the other day. Good. Dog the Bounty Hunter. Yeah, it says Dog the Bounty Hunter, stepson Gregory shoots and kills his 13-year-old son in tragic accident. So Dwayne Dog Chapman's stepson, Gregory's son, Anthony, is dead. Oh, gosh. So he killed his own son. Oh, God. I thought it was like I thought they were brothers. I thought that was even more I thought that was just as bad, but no. Oh, that's so sad. Prayers wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy on any. I couldn't even imagine that. Oh God. Sorry to bring down the live. I mean, not like this book wasn't going to, but prayers for Dog and his wife and prayers to that little boy's dad, That's sad. I thought it was, for some reason when I read it, I was thinking it was the brother and the stepbrother, or you know what I mean? Like, and I was like, that's terrible. But and he probably has like a lot of experience around guns. Like it was probably just some freak accident. I'm sure we'll get more information as in the coming days, but it just happened yesterday, I guess. So we're on chapter 115. It's might be a little bit different because we're reading the larger print, but Moscow, Idaho. Let me make sure we're okay. Yeah. January 5th, 2023. They bring Brian Kohlberger up from his cell into the tiny Latah County courtroom, and he sits in the defendant box within spitting distance of the Gonzalez and Laramie families. He's shackled and clad in orange prison clothes. He doesn't turn to look at anyone. His only animated gestures are directed to Ann Taylor, his public defender, who sits easily beside him. Taylor has long blonde, shiny hair, and everything about her clothing, posture, and demeanor exudes a no-nonsense confidence. If she's ruffled to be representing America's most notorious suspect, she doesn't show it. Taylor works for the public defender's office in Kootenai County, where serious crime is far more abundant than it is in Latah County. In an irony that will soon come to light, one of her clients was Xana's mom, Kara Northington. Taylor avoided the conflict of interest by quickly filing for a withdrawal from Northington's case. Moscow is scarcely unfamiliar territory for Taylor. She attended the University of Idaho's law school. It's almost impossible to find a lawyer in the area who didn't. In fact, the man who gave Taylor her first job is now sitting a couple of feet away from her on the other team, Bill Thompson. Rewind. I didn't know. Did anyone else know that? Oh, Kootenai? Oh, that's so much easier than Kootenai. What I've been calling it, Kootenai. Oh, I could call it that all day long, but I won't remember that, baby girl. Now that you told me how to say it, I'll probably get back to the way I was, but that's so much easier. So, okay, hold on a second. So the man who gave Taylor her first job is now sitting a couple feet away from her on the other team, Bill Thompson. So Bill Thompson gave Ann Taylor her first job. You know, he's been in the office since 1993. Someone asked that the other day. They're like, I don't know how long Bill Thompson's been the prosecutor. Like, and I was like yelling, and I wasn't, because I'm on a no chatting zone. I'm on a no chatting kick. So I was like 93 or something like that. It's been since the early 90s. So yeah, wow. So it's Kootenai. I'm that's a lot better than now that we're done saying it, you know what I mean? Now that we won't be saying it as much. So Judge Megan Marshall, the Moscow magistrate, is another part of the cozy UI law graduate circle, and she reads out the charges against Koberger. Well, it is a small town, but still, you know. 4 counts of murder, 1 of burglary. She asks if he understands them. He says he does. She explains that the punishment is either the death penalty or life in prison. The prosecutor has 60 days to decide which one he intends to pursue. Judge Marshall sets another court date a few days hence to determine the date for the week-long preliminary hearing during which the prosecution will lay out its evidence to show grounds for a trial. Stephen Gonzalez watches as it all goes down with a mixture of extreme emotions. He has not been eating or sleeping more than 3 hours a night. Christy and Olivia have been telling him they are worried about him, but it's tough for him to sit back and watch this guy with the strange eyes and the passive face, considering the fact that he's alive and Kaylee is dead. Where is the justice in that? Steve read Brett Payne's probable cause affidavit. It was filed 1 hour before the court proceedings began, and there's a lot in it, undoubtedly. The highlight clearly is the DNA found on the snap of the knife sheath. It's going to be hard to argue against that. That's what his sources in the local FBI are telling him. DNA is the gold standard of evidence. But Payne's affidavit says that investigators got to Kohlberger's DNA via his dad, so the defense could look for loopholes there, and Steve is worried. Will the DNA evidence hold up as legitimate and legitimately obtained? Will the defense try to argue that Kohlberger's DNA could have gotten on the knife sheath years before? Steve plans to do his own research on how long DNA can last there. I'm told that the version of a K-bar has a special material for the button, and it's copper based, and that dramatically speeds up the deterioration of the DNA test of the DNA. Tests have shown sometimes less than 24 hours to the max 7 days, he said. And he's right about that. And what about the lack of any obvious link between Koberger and the victims? There is something about copper based. I should remember this from college, but I can't remember. Something about copper, it deteriorates it faster. Maybe it's because it's like, I know this ain't right. I want to say it like contracts or something, maybe, or like breathe. I'm gonna have to look into that. Kohlberger wasn't a part of Kaylee's circle, so will the lurid speculation that Kaylee had an OnlyFans page or some sort of secret life worsen? Steve wants to protect Kaylee, be her mouthpiece now that she's unable to speak for herself. But Judge Marshall just made that harder. Ahead of Kohlberger's extradition from Pennsylvania, Judge Marshall imposed a gag order stopping the police, investigators, attorneys, and anyone connected to the investigation from talking to the media. The point of this, obviously, is to protect the investigation. But a few days later, without any public process or rationale, she refines the gag order to include the lawyers for the victims' families and witnesses. Steve doesn't like this one bit. His attorney, Shannon Gray, and 30 news organizations filed an appeal. Steve's concern isn't simply that his First Amendment rights are being restricted, though it is a legitimate issue. It's that he has seen and felt the harm that occurs when there's a vacuum in the narrative. He's seen all the rumors about Kaylee on Facebook, which Olivia thankfully was able to squash. He's seen innocent people like Jack DeCore falsely accused until the police cleared them, even after. Now there's no official check on the rumors and speculation about Kaylee and Maddie, other than a trial that could be years away. Kohlberger's defense can say anything in the courtroom, and Steve is helpless to speak out against it. All of this misinformation will get out there, and then it will just sort of become legend. He's so upset that he stays locked in his home office for hours, glued to internet conspiracies. Concerned, Christy and Olivia come up with an idea to help him. They decide to take control of the Gonzalez family Facebook page and repurpose it. Now that Kohlberger has been arrested, what had originally been set up to field tips will become a supportive online community, not only for the Gonzalez family, but for also other families going through similar experiences. It's a way, at the very least, to tell the world what they are thinking and feeling, a way to keep Kaylee and who she really was alive in the public imagination. Chapter 116, Rochester, New York, January 5th, 2023. It's the mention of the knife sheath Kohlberger left at the scene that convinces Christine Cameron that Brian Kohlberger and Papa Roger are one and the same. When Kohlberger was arrested and she saw his face on the news, she thought he looked similar to the strange profile picture of Papa Roger. But she told herself that could just be wishful thinking. Christine also thought about the fact that Elliot Roger targeted sorority girls. In particular, he targeted the Alpha Phi sorority, Kaylee sorority. I was like, wait a minute. Kohlberger he killed 4 people. 3 of them are girls. 3 of them. He's never had a girlfriend. How do we know that for sure? That he's never had a girlfriend? Do we know that for sure that he's never had a girlfriend? I mean, I don't think we do, but I mean, I'm kind of curious. I'm kind of curious. After the arrest, Christine waits for Papa Roger to resurface on the Facebook page and opine about Kohlberger, but he doesn't reappear, and his silence starts a frenzy on the Facebook page. People put up screenshots of his earlier post about the murders and highlight the parts of Brett Payne's affidavit that jibe just a bit too neatly with them. There's his obsession with the idea that police have found a knife sheath at a crime scene, his opinion that the killer had been in the house 15 minutes and that he'd stopped after killing 4 out of exhaustion, that the house was targeted for a reason, that the killer was not in the circle of victims' friends, and that he left the neighborhood. Once again, the contents of the Facebook page enter mainstream news. On News Nation, Ashley Banfield does several segments on whether Papa Roger could be Kohlberger. I have like a whole chart, like a spreadsheet. We should go over that because I do think he's Papa Roger after like the spreadsheet stuff I saw. So we'll have to go over that on a live soon. Christine and Alina half expect to get a call from the FBI or the police. It's not every day that you find you've become the story you're covering. The exposure is helpful, Christine believes, for Alina and herself. It takes the duo a big step closer to building an audience for the true crime podcast they want to host. Every time they keep talking about that, it makes me sick. Vice Media has signed them to an exclusive deal to report on Kohlberger. Well, where was that at? Where's that deal at? I haven't seen that. Christine loves that she and Alina are joined at the hip. Both women believe their arrangement works. Alina puts in many more hours than her partner on this Facebook page and the others they started because, unlike Christine, she's home most of the time because she's struggling with medical issues around an injured back. Okay. So because she's home, because she has an injured back, and you're healthy enough to work, she should do more of the Facebook page. All of it, all the pages. I'm over here reading this book like I know this Christine and Alina lady, but she has a bad back. Oh my gosh, I hope you feel better. Man, okay. Alina believes that Christine is fully supportive of her predicament. One night when, I think she's taking advantage of you, Alina. Alina was recovering from a procedure. Christine refused an invitation to go on Ashley Banfield's News Nation show alone to talk about Papa Roger, a sign of how robust their friendship and partnership is. No, it's because you do all, Alina, it's because you do all the research. She couldn't go on without you. Because if she goes on without you, she wouldn't have your research. You just said you did all the research. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll continue reading. But you tell me what you guys think. But Alina has often told Christine that she cannot afford to continue to work night and day on the pages if they can't find a way to monetize what they are doing. Well, then set up a microphone in your bed. Christine, who has a full-time job, tells her she understands their friendship and partnership are above any sort of monetary thing. Christine believes. I would have put her first, Christine later said. Why does it say I would have? Okay, what's going on? But by then it is too late. Okay, what happened? Oh, friendship going to break up? Okay. Chapter 117, we're going to figure it out here in a minute. Troy, Idaho, February 2023. He's been out in the snow for hours. There's something deeply therapeutic about wielding a chainsaw through logs again and again. In the 2 months since Kohlberger's arrest, Chief Fry has used this quiet time to think and heal, though even out here on his land, he's never quite able to forget those insane 6 weeks between Thanksgiving and New Year's Eve. Thanks to the gag order, he's no longer being pressured to speak to the press. Fry has said no to every media request. Geraldo, Katie Couric, Dr. Phil, I turned them all down. He said, I never thought I'd be saying Geraldo. I mean, he still looks the same. For now, it's mostly quiet. Both sides are preparing for the preliminary hearing. At work, he's continuing with the investigation, looking closely at Kohlberger's digital footprint and the victims to see if there's an intersect, to see if they can find the motive. Meanwhile, there's a page on Reddit called Justice for Kohlberger that the chief follows for humor and with irritation, on which people insist that Kohlberger was nowhere near the house on the night in question and conclude that Fry's wife, Julie, who was elected county clerk in November, is somehow controlling Kohlberger's court schedule or giving her husband advance notices of hearings. The chief adores Julie, his wife of 32 years. When she speaks, she's kind of like E.F. Hutton, E.F. Hutton, he said. So this Reddit nonsense irks him greatly. One conspiracy theorist even concluded that the chief was the murderer and Kohlberger was framed as a scapegoat. Fry looks forward to setting the record straight. As he hoped, Brett Payne's probable cause affidavit definitely squashed some of the police department's worst critics. He received a congratulatory letter from the retired LAPD deputy chief, John D. White, the chief investigator in the O.J. Simpson case. Well, look what that case got us. Dear Chief Fry, congratulations on a job well done. I told my wife after your first press conference, this chief knows what he's doing. I bet you did. Your handling of the media investigation was a textbook example of how to handle big media cases. And the guy who emailed him that this would be the next JonBenet Ramsey case turned around and congratulated him as well. You might have got the right guy, he wrote. After all their back and forth, Fry was curious about this critic. Tell me about yourself, Fry replied. He learned the guy was 70, had been in the oil business in South Dakota before he retired and moved to Florida and had 3 kids. It never ceases to astonish the chief how when you cut through all the crap, people have more in common with each other than they think. Even Pastor Doug Wilson came to sit in his office recently. The cops had lost their legal battle with Christ Church over the psalm singing arrest, and the Christ Church was now suing the city for wrongful arrest and the selective prosecution of Wilson's grandson. But the pastor was extending an olive branch because he'd heard that Fry received death threats from the Christ Church congregants over the episode. Fry told him that yes, he received death threats, but not far from Wilson's congregants, some of whom were police officers. I don't care who people are. We get paid and we take an oath to serve all people, he told Wilson. Fry wishes that Steve Gonzalez felt able to trust his department more. The chief hates to feel at odds with the family of a murdered victim. He doesn't know how it happened, but he can see that the Gonzalez family feels mistreated by the cops, and they do not trust Thompson and his team either. They're upsetting to him. Their lawyer, Shannon Gray, is vocal in the media. He's demanding meetings and wants to be kept in the loop about whatever the cops hand over to Thompson as part of his case. This is often a problem in murder cases. Victims' families think they are owed information, and by law, they do have some rights, but to protect the investigation, they can't be told everything. It's not a perfect system. The chief knows that, and he's upset that the Gonzalez family has articulated how upset they are to feel left out. Fry wants to see his case through, but the clock is ticking. He's 54 years old. He believes in change, and elections for county sheriff will be held in November 2024. That's the one other job apart from being police chief he'd love to have, and by then he thinks Captain Anthony Dowlinger will be ready to replace him. Fry needs to think about the future. So he's taken a moment for himself out here in the woods while he can. He's learned the hard way. You never know what's around the corner. Welcome in, everybody. Hey, Felicia. Oh, that sounds like me. Something I couldn't even imagine moving. I'd be like, where do we start? I'd say just burn the place down and start over. I'm just kidding. Chapter 118, Moscow, Idaho, February 2023. It's around 8 p.m. and pitch black when Ava Wood hears the knock at the front door of her home at 718 Queen Road. She installed a Ring camera after the murders, and she can see a man standing there. He's dressed in a Moscow PD uniform, but since last November, she doesn't trust anything or anyone. She keeps her door locked and waits. He knocks some more. Eventually, she speaks through the camera. "Who are you here for?" He replies, "I'm here for Ava Wood." Ava had 3 new locks and an alarm system installed after the murders, and now she unlocks and opens the door. He hands her an envelope and speaks in a clipped, formal voice. "You're being subpoenaed for the state of Idaho versus Brian Kohlberger preliminary hearing in June." Ava thinks her legs might give way. She starts to shake. She's never been subpoenaed before. "This is the Brian Kohlberger case?" she asked. "Who's this from?" The officer answers, "The defense and Taylor." "The defense? Do I have to show up?" she asks. "Yes," he tells her. "It's illegal to disobey." As soon as he's gone, Ava slams the door, in tears, phones her parents. Luckily, her dad is a lawyer who specializes in bad faith litigation. He advises her to phone Thompson's office and let them know she has been contacted. She speaks to Stacy Osterberg, Thompson's assistant, who suggests she should find out what Taylor wants. So in March, Ava and her dad do a Zoom with Taylor. On the call, Taylor homes in on something Ava told the police the day of the murders. On Friday, October 14th at 1 a.m., she'd heard someone climb up the metal steps to her apartment, which was across the street from 1122 King Road, and try the door. "You could hear the jingle of my doorknob. It's a finicky doorknob," she said, but the door stayed closed because Ava had put in a deadbolt during her junior year. She told police what she now tells Taylor, that at the time she looked on Snapchat to see if any of her friends were in the area, saw one, Mason Bangaman, and texted him to see if he had just tried to let himself in. No, he'd said, so Ava asked him to check the street. She watched through her bedroom window as Mason and a couple of friends walked into view. He texted Ava that he couldn't see anyone. So Ava went to sleep. She didn't think any more about it. When was that? Okay, October 14th. Okay. I don't know why. That's weird. Why, I was like, why? I thought maybe it was before like Brian moved out there, but no. So until Xana, Ethan, Kaylee, and Maddie were murdered in the house across the street. And then she wondered aloud to the police, was the murderer the same person who tried to get into her apartment 4 weeks earlier? Ann Taylor asked her repeatedly to describe what she can see of the street from her home. Ava says she can see the front door of 1122 King Road and the street leading up to it. Taylor asked her if the police ever got back to her about the October incident. The answer is no. After Kohlberger was arrested and Ava read the probable cause affidavit, she asked if anyone in law enforcement knew if October 14th was one of the 12 times Kohlberger's phone had pinged in the King Road area. No one will tell her. It occurs to Ava that if Kohlberger wasn't in the area in the pre-dawn hours of October 14th, the defense could argue there was another perpetrator running around. But if he was, Ava guesses from Taylor's other questions that the lawyer is looking for holes in the accounts of the victim's friends. Taylor asked Ava a lot of questions. How well did I know Maddie, Ethan, Kaylee, and Xana? What kind of people were they? Did the roommates ever fight? Did they leave their house unlocked? Did I ever attend the parties they had? How close was I with Dylan and Bethany? Were we all in the same room at the police station? Did I know anything prior to the police being called or showing up? Did I know anything while sitting outside? When did I find out about all 4 of them? How did I find out all 4 of them were dead? Did I have any knowledge of Kaylee or anyone having a stalker? Did I hear anything that night? What did I do the night before? Was I outside that morning? How did I get wrapped up into this whole situation? I would be like, you tell me, Taylor. Taylor apologized for putting Ava through this, which is decent, Ava thinks. But Ava, who is back with her parents in California, really doesn't want to testify. Texts ping back and forth among her friends group. Who else has received subpoenas for the preliminary hearing on June 26th? Two of Jack Decor's housemates, including Adam Luda, the guy in the corner club bar, received them. So too has Ethan's close friend, Peter Elguera. He was with Ethan and Xana until the end of the Sig Chi party on November 13th. Unlike Ava, Adam, and Peter can't try to contest the summons because of their location. They live in Idaho. In April, court filings show that Bethany was subpoenaed by Taylor, but because Bethany lives in Nevada, it's been agreed that she could be interviewed there instead. How is that fair? Ava, the California resident, wonders. She writes to Taylor's office asking if they will at least pay for her travel and accommodations. They will. When she attends graduation in Moscow in mid-May, she keeps thinking that her next trip to Idaho is going to feel a lot more stressful. She's back home in California a few days later when she hears the news. She doesn't need to return to Moscow for the preliminary hearing because there won't be one. Brian Kohlberger has been indicted for the murders by a grand jury Bill Thompson convened in Moscow in secret. All the better for the prosecution, which won't have to show its hand and reveal its witnesses to the defense ahead of trial. Chapter 119, Moscow, Idaho, May 11, 2023. Emily Atlant is already in town for graduation when she gets the email summons from Bill Thompson. He's convened a grand jury and she needs to testify. No one can know. She needs to get to the Latah County Courthouse on Sunday evening when Thompson's team will prepare her for what to expect at the real thing on Monday morning. Hunter Johnson received the same summons. The only people they tell are their moms, Karen and Jessica, who are with them for graduation. Emily has an immediate problem. She has nothing to wear other than her graduation dress. So Jessica, Hunter's mom, takes her to Target where she purchases a respectable pair of pants. It's hard, if not impossible, to relax through graduation events knowing what lies ahead. As she walks into the courthouse on Sunday evening, Emily glances at a big steel door to the jail. She shudders. Kohlberger is down there. She tries to push him from her mind. She and Hunter are separated for their practice sessions. Emily interlocutor is Ashley Jennings. Emily is nervous answering the questions. There are times when she screws up and starts over. The next morning, she and Hunter find that it's not as easy as they'd hoped to slip away from their friends who are pre-gaming. We've got breakfast plans with our families, they lie. Oh, so do a breakfast shot first, is the reply. That puts Emily on the spot, but nothing is going to induce her to drink. Too much is at stake. She and Hunter are driving 5 minutes from the courthouse when a member of Thompson's team texts them an alert. There's media outside, use the side door. When Emily does find herself in front of a jury, she is grateful for the preparation. It's intimidating, but she can do it. They ask the exact same questions she just rehearsed, and she answers them smoothly. Tell us about the events of November 13th. She and Hunter don't know who else Thompson called for the grand jury, but Emily suspects that Dylan and Bethany may have testified on Zoom. She doesn't see either girl around campus when she and Hunter return to their friends, then ultimately walk for graduation with their respective classes. All she knows is that on May 17th, it's announced that Brian Kohlberger has been formally indicted by a grand jury for the murders of Xana, Ethan, Maddie, and Kaylee, which means there will be no preliminary hearing. Emily has played her part. I'll call you when I need you, but meanwhile, I want you to get on with your lives. That was Bill Thompson's parting message to Emily and Hunter when they headed back to Boise. But for Emily, returning to normality is a struggle. After the murder, she struggles to focus. She worries that her GPA will not be good enough for her to get into a physical therapy program, so she ends up not applying. She's lost sight of her goals. She feels adrift, no longer the person she was before the murders. Hunter is an athletes coach at Centennial High School in Boise, so he at least has structure in his life. Emily takes a series of part-time jobs and eventually trains to be a dental hygienist, but she knows deep down that she needs to address the trauma of November 13th. She needs to try to get past it. She starts going to counseling and digging deep, learning to be alone, even though, thanks to Hunter, she seldom is. Her doctor recommends she try eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing therapy. But when she runs this past Thompson's team, they warn her that this would likely disqualify any testimony she gives at trial because EMDR can affect memory. They tried to do that with me, or they wanted to do that with me, but they couldn't because I was like, how do we do that with one eye? And they're like, oh yeah. Because, they both won't move the same. Because they have you do tests, like you move back and forth. I don't know. So Emily isn't going to risk that, even though a trial could be many months away. I don't want to I don't want to testify, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes, she says. She wants to see this through. She wants to get justice for Xana, Ethan, Kaylee, and Maddie. And then and only then she will do the therapy. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but this book, and this is how I do it a lot too. When I'm writing the victims' names out, I put them in different like orders because I don't want one person to feel like, I don't know. I've always thought this. I didn't want one person to feel like they were the most out of like all four. You know what I mean? They're all four equally. They were all four equally as great and all four equally as missed. So I've noticed in this book that they do that too. They switch it up. Titanium on the outside, warm and mushy on the inside. That's about it. Really? You passed on it? I would have probably done it if I could have. Oh, so it's auditory. Oh, well, they didn't tell me that part. Yeah, I think I'm okay now. I don't think I need it. My dog's snoring back there. I don't want to testify, but I'm. Oh wait, do we read this? It says, oh yeah, it says, and then only then will she do the therapy. So, okay, chapter 120, Moscow, Idaho, May 22nd, 2023. Brian Kohlberger keeps his eyes forward fixed on District Judge John Judge, who is taking over the case after the indictment. He answers yes over and over when the judge asks him if he understands the charges and the penalty for each one. If found guilty, Kohlberger faces either life imprisonment or the death penalty for each of the 4 counts of first-degree murder charges. Miss Taylor, the judge says, is Mr. Kohlberger prepared to plead to these charges? She rises and answers, Your Honor, we will be standing silent. The judge pauses because Mr. Kohlberger is standing silent. He says, I'm going to enter not guilty pleas on each charge. If John Judge is surprised, he doesn't show it, but standing silent is not something that happens often. Many suspects don't even know there is an option besides pleading either guilty or not guilty. Well, if they have a lawyer, they should. Even local attorney Mike Patterson wasn't aware of this option. What? But you're a lawyer, you need to know that. But Ann Taylor is a very practiced criminal lawyer, and Brian Kohlberger knows more about criminal law than your average suspect. There are 2 reasons media commentators say that someone who has said he understands the charges and issues would stand silent. The first is if there are ongoing negotiations around a plea deal. Few people believe that is the case here. Everything seems to indicate that Kohlberger wants his moment of fame. The second has to do with public perception. In high-profile trials, defendants might want to avoid sparking further public outrage by saying not guilty. It's a nuisance that likely occurs only to someone who thinks and cares about the PR ramifications of the court proceedings. Brian Kohlberger, it is reported, cares greatly about the PR ramifications of his case. He watches TV coverage of it as much as he can in his jail cell. Steve Gonzalez complains publicly and often about Kohlberger's privileges. Oh yeah, he's probably watching News Nation. Wonder if they have that station. I would get it just for his TV. We got to get this guy. I don't want him ever getting vegan meals and his own TV, his own phone, video conferencing his mother, he said. I got family members that are military. They come home all messed up in the head. All they get is the VA. And this is the way we treat our murderers, our mass murderers that kill people. Vegan meals, TV, room, and board. It's obviously outrageous, Steve thinks, but so much about the legal process is. Most people have no idea how frustrating it is to be in his shoes. Most people don't think about how little agency a murder victims' parents have. But on his family's Facebook page, he's starting to hear from other victims' parents who say they wish they'd been more proactive and involved in their children's cases. He's getting messages of support from families all around the world. It's hard to juggle his day job doing IT at the hospital and all this, but curating the page brings the Gonzalez family together. It gives Christy purpose on her down days. The encouragement spurs him on. Chapter 121, Moscow, Idaho, spring 2023. Half a mile away from Kohlberger's jail cell in his office on Jackson Street, Christchurch pastor Doug Wilson closely follows developments in the Kohlberger case and the implications for his family, especially his grandson Rory, and his conviction for illegally affixing a sticker to a pole. This is just personal theory connecting dots, he said. I think that the judge, Marshall, did not want to throw the Moscow officials under the bus by finding in favor of Rory, because that would make the cops look bad. That would make the city of Moscow look bad in the middle of this. His argument might not have gotten much traction with anyone other than his own congregants if it weren't for the fact that after Kohlberger was arrested, Marshall played into his hands by imposing the controversial gag order on the victim's family's lawyers. When 30 media organizations and the Gonzalez attorney Shannon Gray filed appeals against Marshall's gag order, Wilson felt deeply gratified. Now he isn't the only one who thinks Marshall has obstructed people's First Amendment rights. This could be very helpful to Rory's case, he thinks. Just not to put too fine a point on it, he said, but Judge Marshall was the one who put the gag order on them, and she's the same person who excluded my grandson's defense. So it's the same. This is a small town. We're talking about the same people. Wilson hoped that given the public pressure, Marshall's Superior District Judge, John Judge, would be sympathetic to Rory's appeal. We had heard rumors, he said, that John Judge was not happy with the city of Moscow. But it's May, and suddenly the district judge is under pressure of his own because following the grand jury indictment, he's taking over Brian Kohlberger's case. It's by far the biggest one of his career, most of which he spent as a lawyer in private practice. Later that spring, Judge John Judge denies Rory's appeal. Doug Wilson is annoyed but unsurprised. He thinks that Judge, like Marshall, has no interest in issuing a ruling that could further harm the reputation of the Moscow PD in the wake of the murders. John Judge is from the same network as all the local judges and lawyers. He is a UI Law School graduate, just like Bill Thompson, Megan Marshall, Ann Taylor, and even Kathy Mabbitt, the coroner. Well, who didn't go to U of I? Or UI? Like, maybe I need to go there. Maybe I need to go back for my 40th. Hey, Monet. Maybe that's what it is. So we've got Kathy, we got Bill, we got Megan Marshall, that was the first judge, and then Ann. I mean, no one wanted to go to Pullman. They didn't have a good law program over there. Wilson, now clear in his own mind that whatever happens in this case has a direct bearing on Rory's intends to fight on. The Wilsons will appeal Rory's case all the way to the Idaho Supreme Court. They will sue in federal court too. They will spend whatever it takes. They've already surpassed 6 figures. If Kohlberger is acquitted, let's say he's acquitted because of a botched handling of evidence, then our allegation that the cops botched this case is the second verse, Wilson said. But he adds, if it comes out that he was caught and he's convicted because of sterling police work and we all would applaud it, including us, we would applaud it, then our allegation that the cops were Keystone cops mishandling all of this becomes more of an uphill climb. It is obviously related either way you go. So whatever happens, Wilson will be watching very closely. The way he sees it, the fate of his grandson and to some degree his church hang in the balance. I want to see how many chapters were left in this book. Because I feel like I'll be reading and then all of a sudden it's just like, boop, it's done. And it's like, okay, we've got some more to go. I got to 138. Okay. Moscow, Idaho, May 12th, 2023. It's the Friday before graduation and the eve of the 6-month anniversary of the murders. It's also a few days before the celebration of the first Maddie May Day on May 25th. Maddie's birthday will now be an annual holiday that Maddie's aunts Katie and Rachel helped create. They've bought a domain name, built a website, and extended an invitation to all. Join us in continuing Maddie's mission by completing random acts of kindness. We can't wait to hear the stories that emerge as well as we all remember Maddie on this day and every day. Deedle, as Maddie called her paternal grandmother, Kim Chile, is proud of her daughters for coming up with the idea. And she's excited to go to Moscow that evening with the Laramies and her son, Ben Mogan, and other family members to spread the word about Maddie May Day. She's got cookies and a note about the new holiday for the Moscow police officers and the university staff. We wanted to thank the police department, she said. I feel they've done an amazing job keeping their cards close to their chest and going about their business and doing what they had to do. I know that you're not supposed to say this out loud, but I feel they have their man. When she arrives at the police station, gifts in hand, various officers come in and out of the room as she shares the cookies. Deedle is gratified. Until that is nearly 2 weeks later, on May 25th, Maddie's actual birthday. On that day, she reads in the Idaho Statesman that the families of Maddie Mogan and Kayla Gonzalez have filed tort claims notices with the city of Moscow, the University of Idaho, the Idaho State Police, and possibly, it's suggested but not confirmed, WSU. The paper quotes the Gonzalez's lawyer, Shannon Gray, explaining that the families have filed as legally required within 6 months of the original incident to reserve their right to sue. They haven't sued yet, but they might in the future. Filing a tort claim notice is really just a safeguard. Gray tells ABC News it's a safeguard to protect the interest of the families, the victims, and really the whole community around, because if something goes wrong or was done improperly, then someone is held accountable for that. In May, Steve phoned Stacy Chapin to tell her ahead of time that he is filing the tort against the cops in University. He explains this is nothing against you, and he means it. It isn't even against the police in his mind. He's creating a layer of protection for Kaylee and Maddie. It isn't personal. Stacy doesn't take it personally, but she is quietly upset on behalf of the police and the university. Deedle is devastated. It broke my heart, she later said. She is mortified as she reads on and discovers that the Gonzalez family filed theirs on May 2nd and 3rd, but the Mogan family filed on May 11th, the day before she showed up at the Moscow police station with her basket of cookies. The Mogan family designated wrongly insinuates that she had a part in this. She wants to set the record straight. She would never consider suing the police or the university. That is not us, she said. We've been so thankful to the university, to the police department, and have been treated like royalty through this whole thing. But Kim doesn't want to alienate Karen and Scott Laramie. During Maddie's short life, Deedle had consistent, unfettered access to Maddie because Karen and Scott allowed it. Ben was also made to feel welcome in their home. Even though he still had parental rights, things could have been a lot less easy had Karen and Scott not been so generous and welcoming. I love Karen, she said. We stayed really close for Maddie's sake, and Scott too. I really, really love both of them. Nervously, she phones Bill Thompson's office and asks if she is bound by the gag order. She is not. Then she calls the Statesman. She speaks to an editor and tries to explain she'd like to be separated from the Mogan family in future reporting, but she doesn't want to create a story about a fracture in the family, so when the editor asks her if there is an issue, Deedle treads carefully. Well, going forward, could we just make clear who you're talking about? That's all. She hangs up and wishes it were all much less complicated. Maddie was such an angel of a person. Deedle has added an angel wing in her memory to the necklace Maddie ordered for her off Etsy that had both of their names. So she doesn't get why the Gonzalez family seem to be making so many decisions for Maddie's family. She's puzzled about why Maddie's ashes are on their mantelpiece alongside Kaylee's, but she also knows that it's what Karen wants. Deedle thinks if that's the case, then so be it. Karen has lost her only child, and poor Karen had also lost her mother in a car accident when she herself was barely an adult. So whatever Karen wants, Deedle will roll with it. Chapter 123. If you guys don't mind, take a second, hit the like button. It really helps your girl out, in the algorithm. And I just got to grab something from my head really quick. Okay. Thank you guys for waiting on me. My dog's back here snoring. That's true, baby girl, but maybe they didn't want to separate the ashes, So they just put them together and they gave them to the Gonzalez family. Maybe Karen couldn't really look at them too. It would be hard to look at, something like that. Like I have my mom, I think I've showed you guys before, in a little like dove dish thing, like little ceramic thing, but it's just a little piece of her, the rest of her is where she needs to be. But I'm like, I'm keeping a little piece of you, Mom. I had a long talk with her. I was like, don't come haunt me for the rest of my life now. I'm going to keep a little piece of you here. Yeah. And Karen can go to Christie's whenever she wants to see her. And if she ever, wants her back, I'm sure they would be like, of course. But, I think they just have her right there with Kaylee. And I think that's where they'd want to be together, So we're on chapter 123, Moscow, Idaho, August 1st, 2023. It's over 100 degrees when Jim and Stacy Chapin arrive on the UI campus. They are there to drop off Maisie and Hunter for the start of the fall semester. But what they haven't told their children, because they don't want to upset them, is that after they've settled them in, they have another stop to make. Opposite the Kibbe Dome is in a nondescript building that has no AC and no electricity, is everything Ethan left behind at 1122 King Road. Told you guys, headlamps, remember? Told y'all they had headlamps on, and they, yeah. So, yeah, no electricity, no AC, none of that. Jim is reluctant to go. You should have, yeah, Jim, yeah. It says, but Stacy insists, damn it, I'm going to get my kids' stuff. Dean Blaine Eccles has thought long and hard about how to make the hideous experience as easy as possible for all the parents. He got bottled water and nitrile gloves on hand. He and the team have staged and divided the campus building to mirror the rooms of the King Road house. That's spooky. We had old desks and we had brought in tables and staged it kind of like a garage sale. I'm going to get mad at this, aren't I? A garage sale? Yeah, you didn't know about that? Let me tell you a little about that. So I don't know how I'm the only person who really heard this, because a lot of people were like, huh? Even Drunk Turkey was like, how did you know that? And I'm like, I just do. How do you not? Do you not know it? I don't know. When he was on here that day, he was like, how did you know that? So basically, when Kaylee's parents, I might have read it on their page, when they went to go retrieve Kaylee's items from this warehouse. So remember how they took everything out for the families and they put it in that U-Haul? Okay, so they took that U-Haul to like a warehouse, right? The warehouse had no AC, no heating, none of that. So they put those items in there, and they were, how long was this? When did they say this? August 1st. So almost a year later, their stuff has just been sitting. And when they went to get Kaylee's things, Christy and Steve said they had to wear headlamps because there's no lights. There's no lights on in there. There's no electricity, so there's no lights. And they had to like sort through the things because their stuff wasn't even together. So like they said that Xana's stuff was in with Maddie's, with Kaylee's. I mean, it was all mixed in. Like they were like there was just no winning on how to, like, who's to get. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm thinking, I wanted to go back through those pictures. I'm thinking that people got things that they didn't mean to get. Like even Daniel said that, I believe he said that he saw something with like biologicals on it, and they like gave it back to the family. And it had like stuff on it. Oh, that's just insanity. So yeah, you'll hear about it here. So Dean Blaine Eccles has thought long and hard about how to make the hideous experience as easy as possible for all the parents. And how about boxing their stuff up for them? All the boy stuff. There you go. He's got bottled water and gloves. He and a team have staged and divided the campus building to mirror the rooms of the King Road house. We had old desks and we brought in tables. Sorry. I already read this, but we'll read it again. And staged it kind of like a garage sale. We didn't want them to have to worry about opening boxes and being surprised. Why would they be surprised? What do you mean? We didn't want them to have to worry about opening boxes and being surprised. What do you mean? When you guys box stuff up at the King Road house, please tell me you guys just took your time, right? Like, just tell me you took your time. There's only certain parts of the room that needed to be corded off, right? Like, that's craziness. Eccles had deliberately made sure that the families all come on separate days, and he has security in place just in case. Why would you need security in place just in case two families came on the same day? That's not, why do you need security for that? The Chapins walk through a room labeled kitchen to see if there's anything of Ethan's in there. Then they go into a room marked 4, which contains the belongings of Xana and Ethan. I was like mushing their names together. Some of Ethan's stuff is spattered with blood. Oh my God. It's upsetting to see, unsurprisingly, given the heat, the building smells rank. I couldn't even imagine. Why the hell would you guys do that? Then why did you give anything back? You should have just said, can't give you nothing, can't give you anything. Just name one trinket and we'll go in and get it for you. I mean, really. It says, it was hell. This is what Stacy said. I will not lie. It was hell, Stacy said later. But she takes what she needs. She'll put the furniture in those storage units she and Jim have kept in Moscow. And she brings the clothes back with her to Priest Lake, where she washes them and puts them away in the basement beside Ethan's ashes. They don't need to overthink it now, but one day she knows when they are ready, Maisie Hunter and she and Jim will want to choose some pieces of Ethan's life to hold on to. Going through Ethan's stuff is only one part of today's bittersweet experience. Ahead of the trial slated for October, just 2 months away, the court released 1122 King Road, meaning both the defense and the prosecution teams have no further use for it in terms of evidence. Soon after the murders, the owners gave the house to the university, leaving it up to the UI to decide its fate. In February, the school announced the house would be torn down. The Chapins are fervently in favor of the house being demolished as soon as possible. Hunter can see it from his bedroom window at Sig High. And so too can so many of Xana and Ethan's close friends like Jose and Ava. Stacy and Jim believe no one needs to dwell on the horrific events of November 13th, and the house is a horrible reminder. It needs to go, Stacy said, a position reflecting their larger laissez-faire view of unfolding judicial process. They don't want to spend a second thinking about Kohlberger or a trial or any of the legal process beyond what they gleaned from Bill Thompson, whose staff phones regularly to update them. Over coffee in the corner one morning in March, as they watched the sun rise and like every day wipe away their tears, Stacy and Jim came to the decision that it was time to look forward, not back. Why would I want to waste my time looking at him, Stacy said, referring to Kohlberger. She has, for now at least, no intention of showing up at any of the hearings or in the future at his trial. Nothing is bringing Ethan back. Out of devastation, the Chapins want to create something positive. To Stacy, that's The Boy Who Wore Blue, a children's book she wrote about Ethan with illustrations by Lana Lee. In June, she and Jim travel to New York and she appears on the Today Show. The book's profits will go to the couple's nonprofit foundation, Ethan's Smile, also a new variety of tulips Skagit County farmers have named in Ethan's honor. The foundation plans to award scholarships to high schoolers applying to college. While the Chapins have no interest in the judicial process or the efficiency of the system, Steve Gonzalez is on a mission. He asked journalists and local sources in the FBI to help him with research, and on the Gonzalez family Facebook page, he refers to himself as a private investigator. From the data Steve receives, he becomes increasingly sure that Maddie was the target. As far as Steve can see, Kohlberger liked Maddie's photos on social media. He liked Kaylee's too, but always in joint photos with Maddie. He wants to figure out how Kohlberger appeared to know the layout of the King Road house before entering it on November 13th, so he strenuously objects in July when the university announces its plans to demolish the 1122 King Road house quickly. I mean, we all got it off I got it off of college pads. People were looking it up off of Zillow. I mean, it was there. Technology changes so fast, he said, so you never know if they're going to discover some new scan or some kind of new phone technology or whatever, and they want to go back in there and retrace steps. He has a point. Months down the road, there will be back and forth between prosecutors and Kohlberger's defense debating the accuracy of the model of the house to be used at trial. Shannon Gray puts out a statement from the Gonzalez to that effect and says that the Kernodles and the Mogans are united on this point. Dean Eccles understands their frustration over the phone, but his hands are tied. University administrators are worried that the house is not safe. Investigators tore out pieces of walls and floors, and there are wires hanging out. And it's costing the school around $600 a day to pay for security. It's a liability. Because of the Gonzalez family's public opposition to the demolition, Eccles is concerned that there might be some sort of disruption when they arrive on campus to pick up Kaylee's belongings in August. I absolutely worried that Shannon Gray was going to get media there and try to make this a big deal, Eccles said later. But the Gonzalez family comes quietly without Gray and without drama. They take their time looking through Kaylee's things. Eccles feels for them. I felt I had a really good relationship with them for the most part, he said. In person, he senses they are just decent people trying to grieve the loss of their daughter and advocate for her in the best way they know how. By the end of August, all 4 victims' families have gone through the stuff. The Kernodals do it remotely. What do you mean remotely? What do they do? Just point the phone, FaceTime? They do this? I don't. Steve Gonzalez is brave. They should have offered to send that stuff without the BLOD. You know what I mean? We'll send it to you. What would you, is there anything you don't want? Like her clothes or, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. I don't know. They probably want it all. But don't send them anything that's stained. Steve Gonzalez is bracing for the worst, but out of the blue, the university announces that the demolition is postponed. This is not entirely due to the pressure from the Gonzalez family, but it's because of something that will come to frustrate Steve even more than the planned demolition of 1122 King Road. It's because the trial date has been changed. Chapter 124, Moscow, Idaho, August 18th, 2023. Kohlberger is clean-shaven, hair neatly trimmed, and dressed in a white shirt, striped tie, and gray jacket. He enters the courtroom through the side door and takes his seat at the defendant's table, where he and Ann Taylor appear to chat too easily, almost as if they are discussing the weather. Sitting in the gallery, Christy stares at him. She wants him to look at her, make eye contact. Her sister, Tammy Butts, really wants him to look over. Tammy is wearing a black t-shirt on which it embolizes in yellow and white lettering, "Justice for Kaylee, Idaho House Bill 186, shots fired." A few months earlier, the Idaho House of Representatives passed a law that would effectively bring back the firing squad as a means of execution if state officials were unable to obtain the chemicals needed to carry out a lethal injection. Tammy's t-shirt, a photograph of her wearing it, is later posted to the Gonzalez family Facebook page with the caption, "Damn, it feels good to be a gangster," is a reminder that Bill Thompson has put the death penalty on the table. If Kohlberger sees the t-shirt or the family, he doesn't react. Even when the defense's first expert witness in this hearing talks about the science of investigative genetic genealogy, Kohlberger's expression stays fixed. His attorneys will later argue in court papers that this is due to his autism spectrum disorder diagnosis, and they will claim it will hurt a jury's perception of him. The media's poll camera keeps zooming in on him as if seeking something, anything, but it gets nothing. In a preview of what may come at trial, depending on what the judge allows in, Taylor steers the focus to the DNA found on the knife sheath. She wants the state to hand over to her the precise IgG methodology that was used to construct Kohlberger's family tree, discovery that the state lawyers say they don't have. And even if they did have, or they did, they argue, the issue is moot because they have Kohlberger's DNA from a cheek swab, and it's an exact match for the DNA on the knife sheath. The IgG lab work simply gave them a lead. Judge John C. Judge says he'll allow Taylor to pursue this avenue, even though it's on the edge. He expresses his desire to be particularly cautious because this is a death penalty case, and if I deny the presentations that one or the other side believe have some bearing on the case, it's probably more wise for me to allow it, Judge adds. It's especially important in a case like this to have a record for appeal. So I'm not saying no way or the other how. So I'm not saying one way or the other how my ruling might fall, but I think it's important to preserve the record. For the next 2.5 hours, the courtroom becomes Taylor's altar. Taylor's theater. I'm not reading. At least that's how Steve sees it. Thompson seems to have little to ask or say. Taylor calls 3 expert witnesses and peppers them with questions about the complexity of the science behind creating a family tree from trace DNA. One of them, as far as Steve can see, has no right to call herself an expert at all. Purple hair? How are you allowing her to become an expert on the stand and not even cross-examine her? He complains privately afterward. The experts discuss the room for error and also the issue of whether online genetic databases were accessed by law enforcement without authorization, which could lead to legal challenges down the line. When you look at the 2 lawyers battling, it almost doesn't seem like a fair fight. Thompson is retirement age and looks it. Taylor is in her late 50s, young-looking blonde. She's quick on her feet and she's aggressive. She asked the judge, for instance, to toss out the indictment based on numerous far-fetched surrounding irregularities surrounding the grand jury process. She argues that too few jurors were called, 32 instead of 45, in violation of state statute, that the instructions they were given were inaccurate, even that the questionnaires they received were misnumbered. A former classmate of hers, Moscow lawyer Mike Patterson, observed that part of Taylor's job was simply to buy Kohlberger's time. It's a death penalty case. So when the disappointing, if predictable, news that Kohlberger is waiving his right to a speedy trial comes down the pike 5 days later on August 23rd, Steve is prepared. It's a reminder, Steve says, that it's essential that the Gonzalez family is there in the courtroom for every single hearing. He has so little control over the course of justice that his presence in that room staring at the defendant feels like the only powerful thing he can do. It's the only time he truly feels he's doing anything proactive for Kaylee and Maddie. Chapter 125, LaConner, Washington. Okay. Oops. It's the 1-year anniversary of the death of their beloved child. Jim, Stacy Hunter, and Maisie Chapin dressed in a black tie are welcoming their guest. Over glasses of wine in early summer, Jim and Stacy thought very hard about what they wanted to do on this day. They wanted the evening to be upbeat, positive, celebratory even. They wanted it to raise money for their foundation, Ethan Smile. They wanted it to be intimate and private. There are more media requests flooding in than ever, partly because of the anniversary, but also because Stacy's insistent on keeping the focus of Ethan's story away from the lurid end is becoming a focus in itself. In October, the New York Times covered her weekend visit to Orlando, Florida for CrimeCon, which billed itself as the world's #1 event for true crime and mystery. Stacy had gone to the convention as part of a panel of victims' parents who, like her and Jim, were starting foundations as their children's legacies. So once there, she saw that a professor from Alabama was offering a seminar purporting to be a forensic analysis of Ethan's murder. Stacy tried to attend, but walked out after a few minutes. After some deliberation, she returned to the packed seminar near the end of the session. She stood up at the mic during the Q&A. Oh, she went, "What? Oh, thanks, baby girl. Yeah, and hit the like button for me. Thanks. Thank you, baby girl, for the super sticker. I really appreciate that. That's very nice of you." I can't believe she stood up at the mic. Like, can you imagine? Not me. I would be mortified. I mean, I don't know. I'm pretty proud of like stuff I put out though. But I mean, like I would still be like, "Oh my gosh." "My name is Stacy Chapin and I'm Ethan's mom," she said. The room of 3,200 people hushed, then broke into loud applause. Her voice quivering with emotion, Stacy pressed on, explaining that she hadn't watched the presentation, but had a message for the room. In their fascination with crime, they should not forget the victims. These were 4 of the greatest kids, and all of the great things that you read about them are legitimately true. Don't forget these kids. They were amazing, amazing kids in the prime of their life. The moment goes viral on Fox News, whether she wants to do this or not, through her steadily insistence that people focus on Ethan's life, not his death. Stacy Chapin is developing a brand, iconic supermom. But now, on the 1-year anniversary of Ethan's death, she and Jim want a press-free evening. They accept an offer from a friend and neighbor in LaConner, Jeff Helam, to use Helam's Vineyard wine shop and bar for a party. That sounds like a nice place. As Stacy warms to the idea, she realizes she doesn't want just any party. If they are going to do this, they are really going to do this. The dress code is going to be black tie. She thinks hard about a guest list. Of course, Hunter and Maisie will be there. Of course, they will ask close friends, family friends like Susie DeVries and her cousins, Kathleen and Stuart, and the PR executive who acted as their gatekeeper, and Melissa and Jeff, and all the people who helped with the foundation. Dean Eccles sends 2 of his team. There are also the people who have come to be a part of the Chapin's growing family because of the tragedy. One is Jasmine Kernodle, Xana's big sister, of whom Stacy feels increasingly protective. Jasmine has moved to Seattle with her boyfriend Pat, but because of Jeff is in Arizona, Stacy worries that Jasmine can feel alone at times. Stacy wants to support her. The other person Stacy invites is the Moscow Police Chief James Fry. Even as she dresses for the evening in a long navy gown, Stacy isn't sure that the chief will be able to make it. After all, there's an anniversary vigil going on at the UI campus, and LaConner is a 6-hour drive from Moscow. But as everyone sips the fine wines, Chief Fry walks in quietly, his son JD beside him. During her remarks, Stacy asks the room to acknowledge him. We just cannot thank you enough for the work that you have done to right this atrocity. And we can't wait for it to be over so that we can talk about some of what we know and what some of us really know. The chief smiles. The Chapins, like Michelle Widerick, Joseph's mom, and Chrissy Dove, Sarah Park's sister, are his kind of people. We all have different personalities. Some of us are always going to take the bad and make some good out of it, he later said. And then there are people who take the bad and try to capitalize on it. And then there's people who take the bad and let it destroy them. And I think Stacy, the Chapins, look what they've done. They've already done 33 scholarships, over $50,000 given to kids. He added, after what happened to them, that's extraordinary. Chapter 126, Rathdrum, Idaho, November 13th, 2022. On the 1-year anniversary of Kaylee's murder, the Gonzalezes don't go to the vigil in Moscow. Instead, they sit in their living room on their black leather couch, familiar now to America's many true crime sleuths, and give TV interviews about Kaylee and their frustrations with the excruciatingly slow and opaque legal path to justice. We said, gather it up, we'll work with investigators and turn this around, Steve tells News Nation. He repeats how, because nobody knows her like her brother and sister, they were ahead of investigators on the grub truck video and reaching out to Kaylee and Maddie's driver. We went from being victims and became actively involved, and that could make a difference, Steve says. They tell their interviewers that they do have some proof that their advocacy matters. For one thing, 1122 King Road is still standing, and on October 31st, the FBI re-entered the home to create a new 3D map of the crime scene. Because of the gag order, it's not clear to the public what drove the agency to do this, but it's an undeniable win for the Gonzalez family. I knew in my heart that was best for those girls and Ethan, and I knew that was what was best was to keep the house around until they did more, Steve tells News Nation Brian Enton. There will be a point when I'll be like, let it go, but that isn't now. The family shifts focus to another bone of contention, Kohlberger's attire for court hearings. Once John Judge took over the case, he granted Ann Taylor's request to allow her client to appear in court unshackled and wearing a suit. He looks like a business executive, Christie explodes. According to her research, I've never seen another murderer or whatever he is at this point in a case, not in handcuffs, not in shackles, one or the other or both, and in orange. The absence of prison clothing is infuriating. It makes me sick that he sits there in his suit and he sits there and he taps his hands, she tells Enton. He rocks back and forth. Why is he sitting there in the judge chair with a fresh haircut? Bill Thompson explains to the family via Gray that the judge allowed this out of caution. If the defense argues successfully that Kohlberger has been made to look guilty on TV screens around the world before he even appears in front of a jury, it could be grounds for an appeal. But Steve assumes that with the case that's this high profile, there will be an appeal regardless. Steve knows there's always a good chance that Ann Taylor will argue, due to the constant local media coverage of the case, that Kohlberger will not be able to get an impartial jury in Moscow and the trial should be moved. If it is moved, Boise, nearly 300 miles away, would be the most likely venue. How is that fair to the victims' families? It just seems wrong, he says, that an outsider comes here, does crime here, without the community having a voice in determining how the justice plays out. That's why Steve chooses to be proactive. I want BK to look back and say, if there was one thing that really brought me down, it was messing with Kaylee's family. They wouldn't let up, Steve said. I would never want him to get away with it. He's toying with the idea of pursuing a federal case based on Kohlberger's having crossed so many state lines to commit the murders. Sources at the FBI have told him that this might be a possibility. Steve knows that's a long shot, but he's going to explore every avenue. For the Gonzalez family, nothing is off the table. Our motto was, don't be victims, don't ever be a victim. Chapter 127, Moscow, Idaho, December 28th, 2023. Demolition Day is finally here, despite the Gonzalez best efforts. Last night, Shannon Gray released a statement from the Gonzalez family with the headline, "Please stop the demolition of King Road home. We feel that the University of Idaho and the court has put us in a horrible position to have our voice, to voice our opinions," the statement read. We all along have just wanted the King Road home to not be demolished until after the trial, and for us to have a trial date so that we can look forward to justice being served. Is that really too much to ask? The Chapins have not commented, nor has Ben Mogan, but Christy and Steve are not ready to so easily say goodbye to the last place Kaylee had been on this earth. Behind the scenes, Olivia, who is back in California and due to give birth to her fourth child shortly, has been trying to get her parents to back down and let it go. This is not the hill you want to die on, she told them. We will have another more important battles. On the other hand, Alina Smith, the co-founder of the University of Idaho case discussion page, goes to great effort to join the protest. She's flown in from Texas, arriving at 1122 King Road long before dawn, but she cannot get close to the house. There's police tape everywhere. They had it blocked, and they had it so blocked off over there that nobody could get through, she said. And other than the media, there's no one around, not even protesters. They put up warnings out a good week or so ahead of time on these little billboards everywhere that if you think you're going to show up and protest, we're going to arrest you on the spot, she said. They scared everyone away. The demolition is scheduled for 7 a.m., but the crew starts 2 hours early. By the time the sun is up, the house is in pieces on the ground. Christine, the other co-founder of the Facebook page, is back in Rochester, New York. She is annoyed that she can't fly to Moscow to watch and take video of the demolition with Alina, but she's got her family to deal with over the holidays. Earlier in the month, the university stated for the third time that it planned to knock the house down on December 29th while the students were home for the holidays. UI President Scott Green told the Idaho Statesman, while we appreciate the emotional connection some family members of the victims may have to this house, it is time for the removal and to allow the collective healing of our community to continue. That quote really stung, Olivia said. Green's stance raised the demolition debate to a fever pitch. Members of the Facebook page are split, some for and some against. Sympathizers with students who are distressed by the sight of the house debate those who favor preserving the premises for potential use in a trial. In the recent trial of South Carolina lawyer Alec Murdaugh, the jury visited the house, the family's plantation where Murdaugh's wife and son had been found murdered. But yeah, and they also, that was land, that was outside. On December 20th, Christine and Alina did a TV segment with News Nation's Ashley Banfield to talk about the controversies around the demolition. And when Alina gets to Moscow, she tells Christine that the trip is proving to be good PR for the page. She's done a bunch of press and she's met fellow cyber sleuth Olivia Vitelli, the creator of Chronicles Olivia, on TikTok. Olivia was the person to whom the Gonzalez family gave their first in-depth interview a year earlier. Alina tells Christine, I think we have an opportunity with her. She's like, she doesn't know half the stuff that you and I know. She's so interested in us. This is a weird look. Christine is excited to learn this because she thinks with all the work she and Alina have put into launching their podcast series, they are nearly ready. On December 8th, she posted on the Facebook page a photograph of Alina and herself captioned, your lovely administrators want to let you know our first podcast is in the works. Enjoy your weekend, but don't cause Alina and I to drink too much. By now, Christine has refined their podcast concept. 2 sleuths, 1 crime. That's weird. Please don't call your podcast that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What? Okay, if you know, you know. If you're my age, you know. Alina, however, returns to Texas to bad news. Her husband has lost his job of 20 years. Something is going to have to change, she thinks. Unlike Christine, Alina doesn't have a paying job. Running the Facebook page and 9 others like it has been all-consuming for her. Oh, told you. Friendship's going. But she's got 3 kids, 1 with a disability, and she needs to carry her family while her husband gets back on his feet. So she'll look for the right opportunity. Christine, she's sure will understand. No, Christine ain't going to understand. Christine ain't going to understand at all because you've been doing all the work and no. And Christine hasn't had to do anything. I'm loving the part with Christine and Alina. They're like 2 characters unlocked. Hey, Evangelina. Hey, Jerry. So Steve is praying as he takes... Yeah, choose something, want something never. Yeah. Steve is praying he takes his seat in the gallery of the courthouse. Let's get a date. To the Gonzalez family, attempting to set the trial date is beginning to feel like Groundhog Day. Ann Taylor seems to be winning every tactical battle. Each time she presents a consistent visual, Kohlberger sits up at the front, suited and stone-faced, next to Taylor and her colleague, Elisa Massive, as the defense attorneys debate what evidence might be and might not be admissible at trial. Each time, Taylor is the star of the show. She's on her feet talking and raising questions more often than any other lawyer in the room. Thompson barely says anything, and the judge, as far as Steve can see, bends over backwards to accommodate Taylor. Last month, Steve, Christy, and Shannon finally held an in-person meeting with Bill Thompson and his team, and they vented their frustrations about the lack of progress. We beat up on Thompson a little bit, Steve said. On Friday, the judge asked, what can I do to make sure that we get this case done before 2025? What would I have to do? And Thompson said, you got to start setting dates. And at the end of the court, what did he do? He didn't set a date. And we're like, that's your fault, Thompson. Today, after yet another back and forth about how much of the IGG discovery the defense wants, Taylor asked the judge to allow 3 unnamed criminal investigators working for the defense to access the material. The meat of the session finally is a heated argument about the trial date. Steve is hopeful at the outset of the dialogue. John Judge and Thompson want it set for March 3rd, 2025, but Taylor pushes back, managing to sound simultaneously calm and exasperated. Death is different, Taylor says. The words punch Olivia Gonzalez in the gut. Taylor continues, this is a capital case. I've heard the court say the court only wants to do it. The court only wants to do it once, and I've heard the court ask what I can do to speed things up. She pauses. I need discovery. I need all of the discovery. When I ask for something, I need to get it rather than have to go back and ask again. I'm not trying to be mean about Bill Thompson, she says, looking directly at her former boss. I'm just not. I think he tries his very best. She blames the problem on agencies like the FBI, who she says hand things over piecemeal. It's like if you wanted to play 52 card pickup with 100,000 decks of cards and throw them in the air, and I have to figure out how to put them together. She wins the hour. No trial date is set. The judge adjourns with a further scheduling hearing for May to discuss a venue change. Steve can barely believe it. So here we are stuck in this situation, and we have a judge and a prosecution that's supposed to be defending us, acting like the biggest victim, and just keep making us feel like a victim over and over. Every time we go into a courtroom, he just sits there and lets her hit him and lets her dictate everything that's going to happen. It's so frustrating. Steve feels he has to go do something, anything to change the momentum. He's going to keep doing his own digging. If no one else can get a break in this case, he will. The discovery hasn't closed. If we do find something that they don't have, then they're going to have to put it in the case. And if I don't care, and I don't care if they don't like the fact that somebody else found it, that isn't part of Idaho. I don't know what kind of world we live in where we hide the truth. Chapter 129, Moscow, Idaho, May 3rd, 2024. When it comes to saying goodbye to the police department he has served for 31 years, Chief Fry knows better than to try to get through it alive. Instead, he sits near the front of the audience in his conference room of Moscow's Best Western Hotel next to Julie and his kids, while the assembled guests watch him give the farewell speech he'd recorded on video a week earlier. The raw, emotional, authentic performance would not be highly rated by his former press coach, Aaron Snell, and it's all the better for that. The chief's voice cracks and he stumbles over his words as he runs through the very long list of people to thank. To everyone who worked the Idaho 4 homicides, the Idaho State Patrol, FBI, Moscow officers, Latah County prosecutors, and the Idaho Attorney General's office, you are all the unsung heroes who did and continue to do a great job because of how you did your job. You have brought trust and respect back to law enforcement community. To the Moscow police personnel, you truly are top-notch. He runs through his list. Bill Thompson, colleagues, patrol, corporals, and sergeants, command, his family, his kids, his son-in-law. And then finally he gets to Julie. God knew I needed a strong wife, he says, tears welling at thought of the woman he kept his whiskey levels in check, who kept his whiskey levels in check during the winter of 2022, and who has always been there for him. He and Julie recently took the Burkham personality test, and James wasn't shocked to discover that the colors of his personality were red for action, energy, green for communication, and blue for creativity, and that Julie's was yellow for order. She completes me, he says. Everyone in the room knows that this isn't farewell to James Fry so much as see you later. Before he retired, the chief announced publicly that he would run for sheriff in November 2024. He'll be up against Richie Skiles, the incumbent, which is somewhat awkward because they know each other well. This is Moscow after all, and both men are well liked. But if he doesn't win that, he'll find something to keep him in the mix. Even so, the retirement of James Fry marks the end of an era, one in which the Moscow PD faced the most high-profile and arguably the most horrific challenge in its history. The house at 1122 King Road may be demolished, but the people in its room bear scars that will last forever, long after Brian Kohlberger has finally faced justice, whenever and wherever that happens. Exhibit A is Tyson Barrett, who is the chief's retirement party. He has already told the chief he'll be having one of his own in July. Tyson is only 52, but the stress of the demands placed on him during the winter of 2022 has taken its toll. He's done. Fry later said that he regretted making Tyson the point person for all 4 victims' families. It was too heavy a burden for one man to bear in those ghastly 6 weeks between Thanksgiving and New Year's Eve 2022. I should have split it up, he said. There's barely a dry eye in the room at the end of the ceremony when Aaron Dallinger hands James Fry his phone or his police radio to sign off for the last time. When the dispatcher utters the words, 101 is off duty for the final time, the room is silent. Heavy, says Dallinger, the new chief in conclusion, definitely a little heavy. Chapter 130, Prosper, Texas, May 20th, 2024. After breakfast, Alina goes to her bedroom to check her phone before taking her house guest, a member of the Facebook page, and the woman's seven-year-old son to the airport. She's away for about 15 minutes. When Alina returns, she's clearly distressed. Her house guest observes that Alina's face is unrecognizable from all the tears. What's happened in those 15 minutes is an argument over text messages with Christine, who has culminated in all the work Alina has done on all of the 10 Facebook pages she created and administrated, with her oldest friend being eradicated. It's devastating. Alina is hardly in a fit state to drive, so her housemates take an Uber to the airport. Once she's alone, Alina returns to bed and stays there for the next 3 days. Why'd you do that to her for? Christine? I don't like you, Christine. Alina was doing all this with her back and everything. That's craziness. The fight between the 2 Facebook page founders began when Christine texted Alina to ask if she was promoting a new case discussion page about the recent controversial suicide of Myrtle Beach woman Micah Miller, whose husband was the pastor of a local church. Alina replied that she was. Christine responded that she couldn't believe Alina had started something without her. Alina explained that she had joined a crime scene collective as part of a victims advocacy foundation because she believed it would result in paid work, which she desperately needed. Christine, she thought, would understand. Alina had financial pressures, and Christine was so busy with her day job that Alina wanted to forge ahead on this. She was worried that the podcast project might not ever happen. But Christine did not understand. After a rapid-fire exchange of escalating, angry, expletive-filled text, Christine deleted Alina from every single page they had started together. That's sad. She was doing all the work so you could be with your family and work. Just like that, the childhood friends were done. Oh, they were childhood friends too. I told you that Christine was sneaky. I saw that from a mile away. And we're reading the book, and I didn't even know I didn't think it would be going down like that, but it does go down on the Facebook like that. It says, done over, but so too was everything Alina had worked on for years and years. And almost immediately, their dispute became public. Christine posted to the Facebook page her side of the story of Alina's betrayal. The post garnered 28,000 views and almost 500 comments. Not all of them were positive. What does this have to do? I can feel you there. I can feel you there. When you only get one side of a story. Yep. I can feel you there. I can feel you there. What does this have to do? Some members ask, with the tragic murders of 4 young innocents in Idaho. It has nothing to do with them. She just wanted to air out her own grievances. Olivia Gonzalez was one of those members. She messaged Christine that she felt that she'd written on that page was inappropriate. Olivia felt very sorry for Alina. She knew firsthand how hard Alina worked. Olivia could see how consistently and often Alina had intervened on the page to squash some of more outlandish conspiracy theories and victim blaming. Fearing that the page might be deleted suddenly in the midst of the fracas, oh no, Olivia joined a smaller page, the University of Idaho murders case discussion, as a backup. A couple of days later, Alina became its administrator. It's not the outcome Alina had imagined when she and Christine started their page and it took off so quickly. And it's not what Christine wanted either. The old page no longer accomplishes what it did at the height of the investigation. Despite the building anticipation around the upcoming trial, there's less media interest in the Facebook page than there used to be. Neither Alina nor Christine is invited to go on News Nation much anymore. Privately, both women regret that the page focus turned away from the victims and towards their messy personal affairs. But it's too late to mend fences. Chapter 131. Moscow, Idaho, May 30th, 2024. Yet again, Steve thinks this hearing is a complete waste of everyone's time. Today, Ann Taylor kicks things off by interrogating Brett Payne about the surveillance video canvassing for the white Hyundai Elantra. She asked him to take her back in time to December 23rd, 2022, when he received Kohlberger's phone records for the 48 hours around the murders and then issued a warrant for the 6 months prior to it. Payne patiently explains that he deferred to the FBI's expert special agent Nick Balance to analyze the phone records and that the PCA probable cause affidavit, no surprise, was put together based on input from the experts at command. It's clear from the matter-of-fact way Payne answers Taylor's questions that he's describing the workings of a well-oiled investigation. All of the different teams and experts do what they do individually, then click together. But Taylor is looking to exploit any gaps in the machinery. She homes in on the fact the investigators didn't create a central inventory for the thousands of hours of video surveillance. Rather, it's stored on different thumb drives. And because he was focused only on the video that was relevant for the PCA, the video with the Elantra in it, Payne doesn't know where all of it is. Taylor wants the video they have of I-95, the main route back to Pullman, because the Elantra doesn't appear on it. In Payne's probable cause affidavit, he was careful not to specify which route Kohlberger took from Moscow back to Pullman. Steve can see that the defense attorney is looking for any sort of hole. It's absurdly low bar, he thinks. Worse, though, the technique plants seeds of doubt. Taylor is poisoning the audience by saying that there's no connection, that there's no video, Steve said. So when she starts doing that shit, I start getting impatient with Thompson and saying, she's kicking your ass in there and you need to stand up for us. Thompson is trying to push back. He told the judge, the characterization that we are just consciously withholding information to the defense is utter nonsense. Indeed, at this point, Taylor concedes that the state has given the defense a 50 terabyte hard drive, more than 13,000 photographs, more than 15,000 video clips from businesses, and more than 8,000 video clips from residences. But Steve doesn't think Thompson is doing enough to manage public perception. He's upset with how Thompson questioned one of the defense's expert witnesses on April 10th. You acknowledge falsely that Mr. Kohlberger allegedly stalked one of the victims. That's false. You know that to be false, Thompson said. The defense expert confirmed that the information was false. Steve is totally confused. Maybe Thompson is being strategic, or maybe stalking has some legal definition that Steve isn't aware of. But as far as he knows, and Steve knows a lot at this point, Kohlberger for sure looked at the King Road house several times before the night of November 13th. Steve has even gotten a hold of a video of a car idling outside it for 15 minutes. He isn't positive, but it looks similar to Kohlberger's. He's fairly certain from his own research that Kohlberger showed up at UI cafeteria. I'm telling you that's him in that picture. Where were we at? That just surprised me. Okay. And that he was looking up restaurants with vegan options in the area. There's only one, Mad Greek, where Maddie and Xana worked. So how can Thompson say there's no stalking? Maybe there's some rule around the term stalking. Steve reasons where you have to physically communicate. I don't know, but I do believe that these victims were selected. I think he picked them and he monitored them. He studied them. He hunted them. And every father and mother's understanding is that he stalked them. Meanwhile, in court, he got to sit through more mind-numbing technical testimony from Cyre, a cell phone geolocation data analyst, who says essentially there's stuff missing from the record, and the missing data, about 2 to 3% of the location data from Kohlberger's phone, could be important. Steve figures he knows a heck of a lot more about cell phone data than this guy. What they should be getting into, Steve thinks, is the trial date and Kohlberger's alibi. In April, Taylor filed papers saying that Kohlberger would use an alibi defense. She wrote that Kohlberger was out driving in the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022, as he often did, to hike and or run or see the stars. He drove throughout the area south of Pullman, Washington, west of Moscow, Idaho, including Wawawi Park. What kind of half-baked alibi is that? Steve said. I mean, stargazing, give me a break. Why doesn't Thompson try to get thrown out as evidence? Steve doesn't get it, not at least because of the night of the murders. He's discovered there was very little visibility. The hearing ends with the state getting nowhere as far as he can see. The afternoon session to talk further about the IGG is closed. Steve hears through the grapevine that during the closed sessions, the judge reams out Taylor. He would have liked to see that. For the moment, he and Christie use the only leverage they have, the media. They issue a statement. Wasn't this hearing supposed to address a motion to compel discovery? How did it evolve into an attack on the probable cause affidavit? The prosecution's witnesses, training records, and their evidence gathering techniques. The court needs to take control of the case and the attorneys involved. As long as the court continues to entertain anything and everything at every hearing, the delay will never end. I agree. Chapter 132, Priest Lake, Idaho, June 2024. It was a beautiful day when Stacy Chapin gets the call from Bill Thompson's office. Next week, there's a hearing at which finally, the judge will set a trial date. It will likely be summer 2025. Thompson would like for it to happen when there are no students around. He's pointed out to the judge that the high school is opposite the courthouse. The news is something of a relief to Stacy, the first hint that maybe some sort of end could be in sight. Although by now she knows better than to count her chickens. You have to be in it for the long haul, a prosecutor friend of theirs told her. You have to let the defense put up everything. And Stacy has been warned that it's possible the trial will not happen in Moscow despite the best efforts of the prosecutors. The defense will continue to arguing that the community is too small and too prejudiced to provide Kohlberger with an impartial jury. But where will they go when the trial takes place? Stacy starts to wonder. Will they stay at Priest Lake? Part of her wants to stay or leave the country for 3 months. She knows that the press coverage will be intense, and that means reliving the horrors of November 13th. But after months of agonizing, she, Jim, Maisie, and Hunter decide they do want to be there to represent Ethan, especially at the opening when the jury first convenes. They also want to be in the courtroom to support Hunter Johnson and Emily and all of Ethan and Xana's other friends who will likely have to testify. It will be necessary, but sorry interruption from the new normal that's finally emerging. Both Chapin kids are now so busy during the semester that their parents no longer feel they need to visit Moscow every other weekend. Hunter and Maisie are set to graduate in May 2025. This summer, Jim is training Hunter to work with him in the machinery construction business. And Hunter also got his EMT certification. Oh, that's really sweet. Man. But he got that because of his brother. Maisie had been working as a server at Hills Resort. After college, she's considering either training as a professional chef or studying nursing. Public speaking, Stacy is finding, is a positive thing for her to do, provided it is an appropriate form that focuses not on the salacious aspects of the murders, but on the family values that are Stacy's strong suit. She loves to talk about Ethan, but she's also beginning to realize that there's an appetite out there for positivity that she and Jim are trying to create to remember him by. In April, Stacy flew to LA to record an episode of The Squeeze. We watched that. The mental wellness podcast hosted by the actor Taylor Lautner, who starred in the Twilight films, and his wife, Taylor Dome. When Lautner asked her what she felt about Kohlberger's trial and the path to justice, Stacy said, "One of the greatest messages I feel like that we've done in handling this situation, nothing changes the outcome. We cannot bring Ethan back, so you could spend a lot of time there, or you can just realize that and figure out how to move forward." And the Chapins are moving forward. They like to walk around the lake and sit on the wooden bench engraved with their late son's name. Ethan would be very proud, Stacy often says to Jim when they look out at the water and his beloved volleyball court at Hills Resort. They like to come to this bench and sip mimosas as they watch the sun sink behind the mountains. Even better is when Hunter and Maisie are around on weekends. The entire family can look at the lake and talk about Ethan in what was probably his favorite spot in the world. They can find peace even. The funny thing is, Ethan would be like, well, of course my parents knocked it out of the park. That's just how we roll as a family. Stacy says to her husband, who nods in agreement. We had a motto, go big or go home, and that's what we've done. Okay, so chapter 133, Post Falls, Idaho, June 15th, 2024. The black tie crowd at the inaugural Make It Pink Gala is so large, it's hard to see everyone who's turned out to support the new Made with Kindness nonprofit that's been set up in honor of Kaylee and Maddie by Maddie's sorority friend, Ashlyn Couch. There's a hiccup in the check-in desk for the people in the formal dress who are in line that goes past the bathrooms and around the corner all the way to the elevators. It's a good 30-minute wait. No one minds. They are here for a good cause. They can even buy the merchandise laid out on the table while they wait. Tonight, even though people are there to support the Gonzalez and the Laramies, the Gonzalez family seated around two tables in the middle of the room mostly keep to themselves. They lent Kaylee's name to the nonprofit, but because they know only a handful of people here, they might miss them in the crush. When the MC mentions Kaylee and Maddie, Christy puts her head in her hands and weeps. Steve puts his arm around her. It's a bittersweet moment. Christy and the girls have been looking forward to this. It's an excuse, Steve says, for them to get their hair and nails done and for him to put a black tie on. And it's wonderful that there is now a scholarship in Kaylee and Maddie's names. During the event, it's announced that Xana's name will complete the trifecta. But they still haven't gotten justice for their daughter. That night, Steve says he's heard the good news from Thompson that there's likely to be a court date set finally, but his patience with Ann Taylor is as thin as ever. He particularly objects to one line she repeatedly uses in court, "Judge, if we ever get to trial." If she doesn't want to get to trial, Steve says, well, Bill Thompson needs to press the judge and find a defense attorney who does want to. Steve is still pursuing his parallel investigation. He's seeking the answers to a million questions about Kohlberger's connection to the King Road house. For instance, he says he'd like to know more about what Dylan saw that night. He feels certain he doesn't know everything about what she witnessed. Someone told him that she hid in a closet. Maybe she phoned someone. He's heard there's evidence on her phone that's important. Steve is still pissed that 1122 King Road was demolished by the university. When he puts it, 75% of the parents were against it. When the time is right, he'll be ready to look at his options for civil cases. He's on a roll. Suddenly, Christy prods her husband. Is that Blaine Eccles? She says, shocked, looking across the room. It can't be, Steve says. Post Falls is a 90-minute drive from Moscow. Blaine Eccles didn't tell the Gonzalez or Laramie families he was coming. And yet it is Blaine Eccles sitting with a bunch of random strangers. I was a little curious to see how many presents would be received. My presents would be received, the dean later said. The Gonzalez family is stunned given the back and forth over the King Road demolition. Christy and Olivia leap up and go say hello to him, and then they bring Eccles to their table. Steve and Eccles shake hands. Eccles tells them that the university's Healing Garden, a project he spearheaded and has overseen to commemorate the victims and help the community grieve, is nearly done. It's likely to open in August at the start of the fall semester. Of course, he wants the family there. When Eccles leaves, ready for his 90-minute drive back to Moscow, Steve Gonzalez actually smiles. It's Father's Day weekend, and Eccles bothered to come. In spite of himself and the fight, Steve is touched. Classy, he says. Chapter 134, Broadheadsville, Pennsylvania, summer 2024. As Connie Saba is shopping in the Rite Aid in Broadheadsville, she sees someone in the pain relief aisle who looks familiar. She stops. It's someone she used to work with, and then she realizes it's Michael Kohlberger, Brian's dad. Connie, he says, is that you? How are you, Michael? She replies. He seems very pleased to talk to someone. My heart goes out to Marianne, Connie says. How is she? Michael tells her that his wife doesn't talk to anyone, even on the phone. We lead a very quiet life, he says. We don't go out, and even when they are home, he says they don't feel safe. People, he tells her, are watching our house. What people? Government people, he says, leaving her slightly confused. Then he says, you know, Brian didn't do it, right, Connie? Connie thinks. She says, the Brian I know wouldn't do it. She wants to be supportive. It's then that Michael seems to remember that he hasn't spoken to her since Jeremy died. We were both shocked to hear Jeremy died, he tells her. Marianne wanted to call you, but she felt unable to. He doesn't explain why. Does Brian know Jeremy died? Brian was away, Michael says. He doesn't say where. He doesn't tell him for months, but yes, he knows. Brian wasn't the same after the drugs, he added. He wasn't the same person. Connie nods, but she thinks even on drugs, Jeremy had remained sweet and good-natured. But Brian was framed, Michael says. Connie is startled. Framed? Someone planted the knife sheath, he tells her. The police didn't find it when they first went in. There were a lot of drugs in that house, a lot of people around, and they only looked at Brian. You know how he likes to drive around when he's nervous. Connie doesn't, but Michael tells her. He always used to get in the car and drive at night when he needed to think or he had some fog. He had to get away and just think. Or when he couldn't sleep, he would just drive around. Michael adds, things will come out in the trial. Everyone will see. The two go down memory lane, reminiscing about Jeremy and Brian's childhoods, the two boys running back and forth between their respective houses. Connie asks after Michael's daughters, Amanda and Melissa. She reads news reports that Melissa was fired from her job, but she doesn't ask specifically about that. Michael says they are good. They chat in the aisle for at least an hour. Michael seems almost sorry to leave. She can tell he doesn't get to blow off steam much. That night, she phones her daughter, Bridget, to go over the whole extraordinary conversation. Connie feels for Michael Kohlberger. He clearly believes his son is innocent. She isn't sure if he's in denial or not. But she can empathize with how a parent must feel in a situation like this, given everything the Kohlbergers tried to do for Brian. If it was my child, she later said, I'd probably be the same way. Chapter 135, Moscow, Idaho, August 21st, 2024. It's blistering hot, but the Sighai brothers wear their suits nonetheless. They want to honor Ethan. Stacy Chapin hugs each of them as they file into the new Vandal Healing Garden and Memorial for the dedication ceremony. She asked Blaine Eccles earlier if the guys could sit close to the Chapins. It's the first time since the tragedy of November 13th that the representatives of all four victims' families are together in Moscow. The Gonzalez sit in the front to the left facing the podium. Ben Mogan is behind them. The Chapins and the Kernodles, represented by Jasmine Kernodle and a couple of Xana's aunts, sit to the right. James Fry stands to the back, almost unrecognizable in his jeans. Mayor Bedget is there. So are most of Moscow's PD. They are standing guard. There are still some true crime maniacs around who are unhealthy obsessed with the King Road murders. Occasionally they surface on campus. And though few people talk about it, everyone is aware that sitting in a basement cell less than a mile away is the suspected murderer. So for Steve and Christy, he's front of mind. The hearing to decide the change of venue is only 3 days away. Christy posted on their Facebook page, all I can think about is the change of venue hearing this Thursday. I'm just sick about it. I wish I could snap my fingers and it would be over. The anticipation eats me alive. Please pray for us. Today, though, the Gonzalez family is not on defense. In fact, they are fully supportive of Dean Eccles and the university. Christy even wears a T-shirt emblazoned with Vandal Strong. Stephen Gonzalez chats amicably with Chief Fry. He shakes Jim Chapin's hand. Dean Eccles hands him a folder of Kaylee's work. Steve and Christy do several interviews with local media. They say that, yes, it's hard to be here, but they are glad to honor their daughter. They think the healing garden is a wonderful idea. Dean Eccles came up with the concept of the garden after the vigil. He knew that the university needed to memorialize the Idaho 4, and while they were at it, he thought, why not create a space to remember all the UI students who passed away too soon while attending college? There have been 4 student deaths since November 2022. So the dean invited everyone to discuss where the space might go and what it could look like. More than 100 students, among them Hunter Chapin, and faculty members came. Eccles created a garden committee that included not only landscape architects, but representatives of the victims' fraternities and sororities. One from Pi Phi, one from Sig Chi, and 2 from Pi Phi. Dr. Shauna Corey, the dean of UI's College of Art and Agriculture, developed a class focused on the creation of a template. They identified plants that work with our temperature, our climate, time of year. They measure how dark it gets on what days of the year. They have done so much work, Dean Eccles says with pride. Earlier in the spring of 2023, the 4 families were invited to sit in on the class and give their input. Stacy felt that it was one of the most cathartic experiences she and Jim have had since Ethan's death. The kids didn't ask them specific questions about garden design. They asked general, thoughtful questions like, what does it mean to be a vandal? And what are the words that describe Ethan? Ever the mother hen, Stacy felt a bonding forming bond forming with these young kids, and she's thrilled to recognize many of them wearing matching black shirts on this big day. Emily Atlant can't get to the ceremony today. The drive from Boise is too long, and Hunter Johnson is at work. But she was asked to pick a flower for Xana. She suggested a Peruvian lily because the lily is Xana's birth flower, and the Peruvian lily, Emily thinks, has the same sort of sparkle and spirituality as her late friend. The Gonzalez family will post on Facebook that they found a deeply emotional special day. They have buried the hatchet with the university for now. It's hard to say which part of it was the most moving. Maybe it was the moment of silence for Ethan, Xana, Maddie, and Kaylee, or maybe it was when Drew Giacomassi, Ethan's friend and fraternity brother, speaks about each of the 4 victims, concisely describing their distinct personalities in a way no one else will easily forget. Do more of what you love to honor Kaylee. Spread that love with random acts of kindness for Maddie. Be silly and do something spontaneous and fun to honor Xana. And tell stories with an abundance of laughter to live life like Ethan. Chapter 136, Moscow, Idaho, August 29th, 2024. The hearing to decide the change of venue lasts over 6 hours. Steve is not hopeful that the trial will stay in Moscow despite his best efforts to convey his feelings to the judge via Bill Thompson. The expert witness that Ann Taylor produces, who testify that it would be impossible in tiny Moscow to find a fair and impartial jury, seem to speak out of both sides of their mouths, Steve thinks. One expert says you can call the jury and they can still remain impartial, and another expert says you can hear something and you can never get it out of your head, Steve said afterward. But he's gotten the impression for months now that Bill Thompson doesn't really want to run the risk of having a trial in Moscow because of the university. The problem, Steve thinks, is that some of these people seem to put the university first ahead of the victims. They all went there. Thompson said in court it would be better to avoid having a trial when students are around. That's why he wants to have it in the summer. Steve was not pleased when he heard that. That's kind of weird way to present 4 murders to a judge, he said. He's also worried that the university's timetable will give Ann Taylor some excuse to push the trial back beyond next summer. So even though he feels that it should be local and that it will be one heck of an inconvenience for him and Christy if it gets moved all the way to Boise, he also figures it might not be all bad to get out of the cozy cabal that is Moscow. He'd welcome a new judge. Today, Judge John C. Judge typically punts making a decision at a hearing himself. He thanks both sides for their really solid arguments. I would say that professionally, this is the most difficult decision I've ever had to make, he adds. On September 6th, in the form of a written decision, the bad news arrives. The judge writes that the defense has met the rather low standard of a basis to move venues. It isn't just that the media storm might have swayed jurors. There are practical considerations for a tiny courthouse and staff. The Gonzalez's post their reaction to their Facebook page. The family is incredibly disappointed in the judge's ruling granting the change of venue. The only good thing about this decision is that it will be Judge's last decision on this case. It isn't clear for a few days where the trial will be moved, but on September 12th, the Idaho Supreme Court orders it moved to Boise, Ada County, under the jurisdiction of a new judge, Stephen Hippler. Steve says that Judge Hippler is no stranger to capital cases. He's known to be strict and stern. Good. Yeah. Strict and stern. Chapter 137, Moscow, Idaho, September 15th, 2024. I think we have maybe 1 or 2 chapters after this. Brian Kohlberger is flown 300 miles south to Boise and booked into the Ada County Jail. There is an inevitable media fanfare around his trip. Mike Patterson considers this to be almost a literal weight off the minds of the people in Moscow. Many of them might have wanted the trial held locally for emotional reasons, but no one liked the idea of Kohlberger sitting underground virtually beneath them. It emerges that his exit is barely a day too soon. On October 3rd, it's reported that the Latah County Jail might finally be closed because it does not meet code regulations. A new fire marshal has arrived in town, looked over the facility, and said the fire sprinklers and electrical systems don't meet standards and the doors are too small. Evan Ellis covers the story. He reports that rebuilding the jail could cost up to $14 million minus the cost of the land. That's why they moved that trial. If city commissioners decide it's too expensive, Moscow's criminals might need to be housed in Lewiston instead.
and the move could happen in just 2 weeks. Thank the Lord Kohlberger is not in there, Evans says, imagining the stink there would have been. Being the cynical journalist that he is, he considers the timing. The election for sheriff is barely a month away and thinks it might be fortress for James Fry's campaign because the jail's failure to meet code regulations happened on his opponent's watch. Is the new fire marshal a Fry guy and trying to help him out, or just by the book guy and it's just coincidence, Evan asks. I have no idea, he says with a laugh. Chapter 138, Rathdrum, Idaho, September 28th, 2024. Olivia and Christy feel like they've hit a wall. They're going to need housing in Boise for 3 months, but they've learned there is no federal, state, or local assistance for families who have lost a loved one. The only option, they realize with input from Jack DeCour's aunt, Brooke Miller, is to start a Gonzalez family GoFundMe page. The family asked initially for $15,000 to house them for 3 months. They will need to be in Boise next summer for the trial. They explain there will be 10 of them as well as pets for the long haul. They need the basics: money for housing, food, travel, and compensation for loss of work. Money pours in, but the trial date remains uncertain. In his first hearing in Boise, Judge Hippler says he's leaning away from the June date set by the previous judge because he thinks it will be too hard to pick a jury given family vacation schedules. Thompson suggests May. Taylor suggests September. Taylor hits her usual theme of being overloaded with discovery. She received an additional 398 gigabytes of information since August, she says. And I can tell the court that nobody on the team has read every bit of that yet. She also has a new mitigation expert she needs to bring up to speed because this person replaced someone who passed away. But in a sign perhaps that Judge Hippler has less appetite for delay than John Judge, he tells her she needs to get it done by the deadline he sets. There are 24 hours in a day, but if you use enough of those hours, enough days in a row, you get it done if you have to. The judge delivers a stern lecture to both teams at the outset. I'd like to say I'm happy to be here, but why start with an untruth? He adds, I do expect, and this will come as no surprise to you, for all of you to get along. I understand the stakes in this case are high as they can possibly be in any case, but you are professionals. You have taken oaths, both as officers within your jurisdictions, but as attorneys before this bar. So I expect at all times for you to remain civil to one another, that you not engage in personal attacks, aid homing attacks, that you do not engage in theatrics, not misstate the facts or the law to the court, and that when you cite arguments in your briefs, if there is contradictory precedent, I expect to see that. On October 9th, Judge Hippler issues his ruling. The trial will start on August 11th and run through November 7th. The Gonzalez family finally feels optimistic. The atmosphere in Judge Hippler's courtroom is palpably fresh, electric even. Once they get to trial, Steve hopes events will be anticlimactic. He has reasons to be hopeful. Steve's FBI sources have told him that when the agency is involved in a capital murder case, they secure a conviction over 93% of the time. The odds, therefore, of getting a conviction in a quadruple homicide, well, you do the math, he says. A lawyer for the FBI has told Steve that in all of his years of experience, he's never seen a case where DNA has been found at the crime scene and it didn't lead to that conviction. A piece of evidence like that is insurmountable. Kathy Mabbitt, the coroner, and other investigators agree, but there's one person in Moscow who is worried. Mike Patterson, the Moscow lawyer and Ann Taylor's old classmate, isn't so confident. Ann's a sharp litigator, he says. He wouldn't want to bet against her. Mike hopes he's wrong, but if it's just a knife sheath that happens to have Kohlberger's DNA on it, what does that mean, he asked. Is the DNA by itself enough proof? Taylor will argue that it isn't. She will also likely challenge the process upon which investigators came about his DNA, Mike believes. She may even offer alternative theories or suggest that somebody, perhaps a crooked police officer, could have planted it. So now the stage is set for the drama that will begin in August, the moment when Emily, Hunter Johnson, Bethany, Dylan, Ava, Jack DeCour, Adam, and so many others in the victim's circle will likely have to take their position in the witness box and relive the horrific events of November 13th, 2022. As to whether Brian Kohlberger will be found guilty or be acquitted, that's a story for another time.
Nope. He's guilty. He's guilty. How many is parts? Oh, that's not very many in the epilogue. Hey, so we'll read the epilogue. Wasn't going to leave you without reading it, but I was just wondering how long it was. We read that whole book. Okay, we're almost done. We're not there yet. The orange no trespassing sign is the only indication that something terrible happened here. The patch of land where 1122 King Road once stood is now strangely peaceful. Green shoots spring out of the earth, birds sing. Students come and go from the houses and dorms all around, but no one stops to gawk anymore. There's nothing to see, just a small field that's overrun with weeds. Most of the students now on campus are of a different, younger generation. They have no memory of Ethan, Xana, Maddie, or Kaylee. They have no memory of the parties, the laughter, and the life that once blazed here. They have no memory of the deck where the inhabitants drank coffee and posed for Instagram photos. But a stone's throw away, the 4 plaques in the healing garden ensure that no matter of the Vandal family past, present, or future will forget the names of the 4 innocents who lived on this piece of green happily and hopefully. Their names are Ethan, Xana, Maddie, and Kaylee. Yeah, I know they could keep that lot cleared. You're welcome. And then just the acknowledgements. No one that we know. They didn't put the Chapins in here. They're supposed to be helping with the book. Maybe they were in the beginning. I can't remember. I can't believe we actually read this whole thing. That was pretty fast. Yeah, that's not. Yeah, see, well, if James would have. Okay, so James, James, you should have ripped this book off the shelves because this book didn't come out until July 14th, and Brian pled July 2nd. So yeah, he could have taken this book off the shelf, and he could have wrote the rest of it in there. Are the Chapins at the beginning? I figured they probably were. I think I'm going to take this little. It matches my books, but they don't have 4. I like odd numbers of things. I have like books over here. You can't even see. Y'all can't even see over there. I don't know if I can show you or not. Though I don't know if you can tell, but like right there, there's like trying to move my finger to the books. There's like 3 books, and they're like thriller books, and like this book would match because it's like the gold. I usually take these like part off the book because I swear you can tape it, but then if you tape it, if it like comes off, it takes the book, right? Part of the book. I don't know what else to do with those. But yeah, if anyone else wants to read it, let me know. We'll pass it around. Felicia, see, now your son needs to poke me in the eye, right? And then when I don't do nothing, and I'm like, I gotta scare him because he could poke all he wants. Doesn't hurt. Won't hurt a thing. Well, no, it would. I mean, don't poke too hard. Speaking of which, y'all just reminded me, and I'm not going to get off here until I grab it. I forgot. I'm supposed to go to the eye doctor tomorrow, actually, because my eye's bothering me, like the way it looks. 10:30 in the morning. Oh, man. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I loved that book. I thought it was really good. And I haven't read, I'm not going to lie, I haven't read a book this big, this large, probably since college. Ain't going to lie to you guys. I mean, maybe like 300 pages, nothing. This is like 400 and like 430. I guess maybe I have. I'm trying to look at those. Yeah, I guess I have. Now I can read the other book that I was reading before we started on that book. Because I'm not good at reading 2 books at the same time. I liked how the chapters were really short too. There was only a couple like sections where the chapters were longer, and but I liked that they were short. And the book really did give us like a lot of new information. I had like moved my computer screen. That helped a lot too to be able to look at the book. So thank you guys for being here. I got to go to my eye doctor, like I said, tomorrow. I want them to reshape reshape it. I don't know, something. If that doesn't help, I'm going to ask them like something on my face. I'm going to ask them what their opinion is. And then we'll find out if I have to go up to just see my ophthalmologist, and then they'll do surgery. I haven't had a surgery since my first year on this platform. I've had surgeries every year, but the last like few, I haven't had any. Like the last 2, knock on wood. So hopefully it's something they can fix in the office. Hey, Trips. I'm hoping that they can fix it in the office. And then that way I don't have to, deal with having surgery. Because who wants to have surgery? I don't really care, actually. It doesn't, schedule me tomorrow. I'll be there at 5 a.m. I'm always the first one to go back. I love that for me. I'm like, let me at least get in there, like, because you can't eat. Like for like 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. the night before or something like that. And I'm like, I do it every time. Knock on wood, that doesn't kill me, right? I don't really eat, but I drink. Yes, actually, Felicia, I've been hearing some stuff about his case, and I saw then last night something happened to my screen, and it like uploaded like a bunch of weird tabs, and one of them was Luigi's. I have it right here still. His all of his like court hearings and stuff. I'm like, why wasn't we going over this? Yeah, we'll have to get back to that. Because I heard that there was like a sex tape or something. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but I think that the ladies need to know. They have to make you the first patient. Well, I'm a soda drinker. I drink soda. You're not going to tell me. You're not going to tell me that I can't. Now, my mom, we didn't know this about each other. But we're both doing sneaky stuff before surgeries. She'll drink coffee creamer. They're like, they tell her not to do. Like, you can drink coffee, but don't put any creamer or something in it. They'll say that or something like that to her. They used to. But yeah. I know. I'm like, if I went in there without any caffeine in me, I'd be done. Yeah, I don't do the eating really. I was thinking I don't do eating unless I may have ate before. If I did, it was like something really small and it was just like a bite. You know what I mean? It wasn't, but I do drink stuff. I drink. I'm so bad. I'm probably don't say that, but that's probably why they asked me, do you have a living will? We could smell the Mountain Dew from here. That'd be funny if they did that. You think he is, Felicia? We'll have to look into that case because we haven't looked into that case in a while. And I do have it up here on my bar tab, so I'll be able to remember that one. And what was I going to say? I don't know what I was going to say. Oh, the 23rd, of course, Brian Kohlberger is going to be the sentencing. They will, I don't know if they're going to release the documents same day or if they'll be like releasing here, like here's a little bit as they redact them, but we're here for it. We got finished with our book, so we can now concentrate, on the documents when they come out. So I'm going to jump off here. I'm going to get ready for bed since I have to be somewhere I've never been tomorrow. I've been to this eye doctor. He's my prosthetic maker, if you will. I've been going an hour and a half to his office for 10 years. I've lived here for 8. Okay. So 8 years. And I didn't know they had they have a office building 10 minutes from me. Yeah. Go me. Yay for me. I finally just found out. So I'll be going there tomorrow. Oh, that's good. 10 to 20. I could do that. Okay. Well, thank you guys for being here. And you guys are the best. If you guys don't mind, hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel. We'd love to have you. And thank you guys so much for spending a little bit of your Sunday with me. We finished the book. So if you want to, if you missed any of the other ones, like other readings that we've done, I do have them under a playlist. And I'm not exactly sure what the playlist is called. It's like the James Patterson Idaho playlist. It might be the Idaho for an American Tragedy. That might be the actual playlist. So, but it'll be underneath all my playlists. I also have the Idaho playlist if you need to get caught up with anything there. And I'll see you guys all tomorrow. Have a wonderful night. Bye, guys.
Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to live this out.